Chapter 1713, Divine Dragon's Might. Chapter 1713, Divine Dragon's Might. When the Divine Beast's Descent magic arrays activated, two pillars of golden light rose from inside the movement-type defensive magic array. The two light pillars pierced the sky and cast a dazzling glow over the primordial divine ruin. The light pillars also purified the overflowing evil energy in the area, and returned a massive fraction of the gray sky to its original blue color. Two gigantic magic arrays then appeared and swallowed Zero-Wing's defensive magic array, draining the mana around the ruin. Everyone at the ruin gaped at the grand, magnificent scene. What are those? Isn't the amount of mana those magic arrays are absorbing a little too terrifying? Even though we're so far away, I can still feel the mana around me drying up. Wait! I can't even use my spells anymore. The members of the various major powers and adventurer teams stared at the two golden magic arrays in the sky in utter disbelief. This was definitely the first time they had witnessed or experienced such a phenomenon. The two golden magic arrays had actually sucked away all mana in at least a 5,000-yard radius, even preventing them from using any of their skills and spells. Even Aqua Rose and Zero-Wing's other upper echelons, who recognized the two golden magic arrays, were shocked and confused right now. This certainly wasn't their first time activating the Divine Beast's Descent magic array. At most, the magic array would stir the mana in a 500-yard radius in the past. Even when they had activated several Divine Beast's Descent magic arrays simultaneously, the arrays hadn't absorbed so much mana that players in the affected area hadn't been able to use their skills or spells. Yet, not only did the two Divine Beast's Descent magic arrays affect 5,000-yard radius, but they had also devoured almost all of the mana in the affected area. Amazing! Using elemental sources as the magic array's cores can actually improve them to such a degree? Xueqi couldn't help his astonishment over the spectacular scene before him. Based on his knowledge, even advanced summoning magic arrays couldn't cause such a huge mana drain. Unfortunately, he had never seen a master summoning magic array, so he couldn't make a good judgment. As mana continued to flood into the two gigantic magic arrays, the figures of two divine beasts gradually emerged. Shortly, two golden dragons with wingspans of up to 600 meters appeared above the defensive magic array. Both golden dragons were covered in dark purple runes, which gave the dragons a sacred and majestic feeling. Roar! Once the golden dragons fully manifested, they released roars that echoed throughout the primordial divine ruin. Following their bestial announcement, they released powerful shockwaves, which repeatedly shoved back the rapidly approaching evil demons and beasts. Even the defensive magic array beneath the two golden dragons trembled violently, looking as if they would shatter at any moment. The two golden dragons had also fully unleashed their auras, freezing the space around them. Even Zero-Wing's members, who were protected by a defensive magic array, felt their movements grow stiff. Dragons! Are they really dragons? Are you kidding me? Zero-Wing can actually summon dragons? The players from the various major powers who watched from a distance stared at the two golden dragons with bulging eyes. The various major powers knew what kind of monsters dragons were in God's domain. They were the personification of destruction. Their life ratings were only second to ancient gods, and a single dragon was more than enough to destroy an entire kingdom. Yet, two of these great monsters floated in the sky before them. Under the pressure the two dragons emitted, they didn't even dare to think of resisting. It felt as if these two dragons were this land's absolute overlords. The pressure the two golden dragons exuded was no longer a matter of basic attributes. This was the difference in life ratings. However, after using advanced identification skills, some players soon discovered that these monsters weren't real dragons. Rather, they were merely creatures that contained a small trace of a dragon's soul. Divine Magic Dragon, Elemental Creature, Archaic Species, Mythic. Level 80. HP 600, 000, 000/600, 000, 000. Although the Divine Magic Dragons weren't real dragons, they still surprised Xueqi. These two Divine Magic Dragons actually possessed domains, which was also why their mere presence affected the space around them so drastically. Go! It's time for the slaughter! Xueqi commanded Flying Shadow and Shadow Sword, who controlled the Divine Magic Dragons. A level 80 Mythic-ranked archaic species was already a nightmare for current players, let alone a Mythic-ranked archaic species that could use a domain. The reason that Tier 4 NPCs could go toe-to-toe with a mythic monster of the same level was their control of a domain. While inside their own domain, Tier 4 NPCs could enhance their abilities and suppress their enemies at the same time. However, it would be a different story if the targeted mythic monster had its own domain. Such an existence would be practically invincible among those of the same rank and tier. Even the High Demon, Baphomet, would receive a one-sided beating if it tried to face the Divine Magic Dragon in a one-on-one fight. Hearing Shifeng's command, Shadow Sword and Flying Shadow, who stood in the center of two magic arrays on the ground, nodded. They then controlled the Divine Magic Dragons to charge at the approaching evil demons and evil beasts. In response, the Divine Magic Dragons flapped their massive wings once and disappeared. By the time the spectators had reacted to the Divine Magic Dragon's disappearance, the two dragons had already crossed over 100 yards. After 2 seconds, one of the two dragons arrived before a mythic evil demon. Before the 150-meter-tall Divine Magic Dragon, the 5-meter-tall level 80 mythic evil demon looked like an ant. The dragon then swiped its claw at the evil demon before it, and as its claw passed, numerous tears ripped apart space. Although the mythic evil demon tried to dodge the attack, its movements were sluggish due to the pressure from the dragon's claw. The dragon's domain also suppressed the mythic evil demon in every aspect. Not only did the domain decrease the evil demon's basic attributes, but the evil demon's reaction speed had also slowed. In addition, the Divine Magic Dragon's claw was frighteningly fast. In the end, the mountain-like claw struck the mythic-ranked evil demon before it could even begin to move out of the way. Boom! The mythic evil demon's body immediately sank into the ground under the immense force, 30-meter-long crack splitting the ground around it. All nearby chieftain-ranked evil demons and evil beasts died instantly, and only those at the Lord rank and above managed to survive. However, the surviving monsters sustained a heavily injured state. In the meantime, the other Divine Magic Dragon had stomped on a level 80 evil Earth Dragon, crushing the mythic evil beast's 40-meter-tall body into the ground. The Divine Magic Dragon then swiped its tail, flattening the ground around it and sweeping away a large number of low-ranked evil beasts and evil demons. Seeing this, the watching players from the various major powers and adventurer teams were dumbfounded. Too strong. The difference in strength between the Divine Magic Dragons and Beast Emperor's monster army was past the point where the latter could compensate with numbers. The mythic-ranked evil demons and evil beasts couldn't pin down the Divine Magic Dragons for even a moment. As a result, the Divine Magic Dragons were free to attack the Grand Lord and Great Lord-ranked evil demons and evil beasts, who were trying to attack Zero Wing's defensive magic array. When the Divine Magic Dragons struck, even the Grand Lords instantly became heavily injured, drastically decreasing their combat powers. Even if these heavily injured Grand Lords and Great Lords reached Zero Wing's defensive barrier, Zero Wing's experts, who wielded mana weapons, could repel and kill them easily. Following which, the two Divine Magic Dragons wreaked havoc across the battlefield. Although the mythic-ranked evil demons and evil beasts tried to pin the two dragons down, the Divine Magic Dragons didn't bother with their mythic opponents. Instead, the two dragons sent their mythic opponents flying and focused on the lower-ranked evil demons and evil beasts. Even when these mythic-ranked evil beasts and demons targeted Zero Wing's defensive magic array, the Divine Magic Dragons got ahead of them and sent them flying again. With their massive frames, the two Divine Earth Dragons could protect Zero Wing's members almost perfectly. At the very least, none of the enemy's mythic monsters could touch Zero Wing's defensive magic array. Before even 1 minute had passed, nearly 2,000 evil demons and evil beasts had been killed. The two Divine Magic Dragons were like colossal killing machines that continuously earned EXP for Zero Wing's members. So, this is why Zero Wing was so confident. Watching Zero Wing's forces rapidly wear down the evil demon and beast army, the various major powers finally understood why Zero Wing had dared to dive into enemy territory with so few members. Black Flame. Beast Emperor wore a solemn expression as he watched his minions being massacred by the dozens and hundreds from inside the Evil God's Branch Temple in ancient Rock City. He had carefully nurtured these evil demons and evil beasts so that they could serve as the foundation for his rule in the Orc Empire, yet his hated enemy was slaughtering them for EXP. If the battle continued at this rate, it was only a matter of time before Zero Wing annihilated his minions. Considering the situation, Beast Emperor gritted his teeth and left to meet with an old man in black robes within the temple. Very respectfully, he said, "Lord Byrne, I wish to hire Lord Dairo to annihilate these ignorant adventurers personally. I hope that you will grant me your permission. You want to get Dairo to take action? The black-robed elder asked indifferently. That won't be a problem, but Dairo's services aren't cheap. It'll cost you 12,000 contribution points per hour. So expensive? Beast Emperor could not help his frown upon hearing this price. He had already spent 7,000 CPs to hire Dairo to cast a sealing barrier over the primordial divine ruin. Now, he only had a little over 14,000 CPs remaining. If he spent another 12,000 CPs now, he'd have to cancel or considerably delay many of his original plans. Have you decided? Byrne asked. Lord Byrne, I wish to hire Lord Dairo for 1 hour. Beast Emperor responded after giving the matter some thought. The last thing he could afford to lose right now was another evil god's apostle. As soon as Beast Emperor finished speaking, 12,000 evil god's temple contribution points vanished from his stockpile. At the same time, Dairo, the mythic NPC at the distant primordial divine ruin, became a mercenary under Beast Emperor's control. Black Flame. You will suffer in death. The first order Beast Emperor gave to Dairo was to slay Xueqi, who stood inside Zero Wing's defensive magic array. Meanwhile, back at the primordial divine ruin, Dairo, who quietly stood atop a flying evil beast, abruptly opened his eyes. Suddenly, the mana around him vanished, and a powerful surge of evil energy replaced it. Dairo's horrific aura reached across the primordial divine ruin, making the players present to grow nervous and keep a close eye on the NPC. Dairo lightly tapped his foot on the evil beast beneath him. The flying evil beast then let out a low screech as it slowly descended toward Xueqi. Impossible! This mythic NPC can actually participate in the battle. Gentle Snow and Aqua Rose's expressions darkened when they saw the NPC elder approach. Hurriedly, Aqua Rose shouted, Shadow Sword, ignore the mythic monsters for now and stop that NPC. Hearing Aqua Rose's command, Shadow Sword promptly nodded. He, too, realized the severity of the situation. Unlike the mythic-ranked evil demons and evil beasts, allowing a mythic NPC to get within attack range would be no laughing matter. Immediately, Shadow Sword controlled his divine magic dragon to charge at Dairo. Scram! Shadow Sword then directed his divine magic dragon to slap at the NPC elder. Chapter 1714. Fighting a Mythic NPC. Chapter 1714. Fighting a Mythic NPC. This Beast Emperor can actually convince a Mythic NPC to join the fray. Is this a joke? That's a Tier 4 NPC we're talking about. The various major powers and adventurer teams members at the primordial divine ruin stared with wide eyes as they watched Dairo descend to the battlefield, their hearts palpitating in fear and shock. None of these players were strangers to Tier 4 NPCs. Tier 4 NPCs ruled over every major NPC city in the various kingdoms and empires, and anyone who had met such an NPC would know just how powerful they were. In God's domain, players were able to face monsters of a higher tier due to having more skills, spells, and combat techniques. With this advantage, players could exploit powerful monsters' weaknesses and defeat them, despite having lower basic attributes. However, NPCs had no such weaknesses. Unlike monsters, both the quality and quantity of NPCs' skills and spells was far superior to players. They were capable of executing many complex combination attacks with these skills and spells, making them far more difficult to deal with than monsters. To make matters worse, although NPCs' basic attributes were lower than monsters of the same rank and tier, they were still overwhelmingly higher than players. After Dairo opened his eyes, the pressure he gave off made him feel like an entirely different entity than before. The evil energy Dairo radiated was so incomparably dense that the evil energy corroded the space around him. Players over 2,000 yards away could clearly feel this man's aura. If players felt as if they had been submerged in a pool of water as the mythic evil demons and mythic evil beasts' auras had washed over them, then Dairo's aura felt as if they had been dumped into a pit of quicksilver. They couldn't help but shudder as they bathed in this NPC's aura. These players finally understood just how terrifying a Tier 4 NPC was. If this NPC elder wanted to, he could definitely kill every player at the primordial divine ruin, and they wouldn't be able to do anything to stop him. As the various powers and adventurer teams members were in shock over Dairo's aura, a massive figure suddenly appeared before Dairo. This figure was none other than the divine magic dragon under Shadow Sword's control. As soon as it reached its target, the divine magic dragon's mountain-like claw descended on the mythic NPC. However, despite having even enough power to send mythic monsters of the same level flying, Dairo ignored the claw and allowed it to land. Boom! The evil bat Dairo rode shot to the ground like a bullet. The instant the evil bat crashed, the impact formed a crater with a 70-yard radius in the ground. Despite the evil bat being a level 80 Grand Lord, the single attack had heavily injured it. Now, even flight was impossible for the evil bat. Where's the NPC? Shadow Sword examined the bottom of the crater in confusion. He only spotted the evil bat in the crater. Dairo was nowhere to be found. Shadow Sword couldn't even sense the NPC's horrific aura. It was as if the old man had vanished. A second later, a figure appeared in the evil bat's original location, which was none other than Dairo. The old man was in the midst of chanting an incantation, having already written numerous lines of divine runes. As Dairo continued to cast his spell, a magic array formed behind him, absorbing a tremendous amount of evil energy from its surroundings. A short moment later, the space before the array ruptured, creating a black hole that absorbed every form of energy available in its vicinity. Sensing the growing strength of the magic array's aura, Shadow Sword's expression darkened. He could easily tell how powerful Dairo's spell would be. It was definitely stronger than Tier 4 large-scale destruction spells. If this spell struck the divine magic dragon he controlled, the attack would undoubtedly send the dragon flying. If that happened, Dairo would have an opportunity to attack the movement-type defensive magic array, and the consequences would be unimaginably dire. Die! Shadow Sword swiftly used the Tier 4 skill, 5 Thunderfingers, aiming the cone attack at Dairo. As the divine magic dragon's claw sped towards the NPC, countless arcs of electricity extended from the tip of its digits and reached for Dairo. However, as if he had prepared for this attack, Dairo lightly tapped the butt of his staff at the air before him. In response, a gray, threefold magic array appeared before the old man, protecting him from the dragon's attack. Tier 4 defensive spell, Dark Hunt. Double speed casting. Everyone gaped in shock as they watched Dairo, who was still casting his first spell. The magical class players were especially stupefied. Double speed casting was a feat that many magical class players worked to achieve. Unfortunately, very few magical class experts could actually do it. Moreover, the higher a spell's tier was, the more difficult it would be to double cast, not to mention double speed casting. Even Tier 2 peak experts had great difficulty double speed casting 2 Tier 2 spells, yet Dairo could cast 2 Tier 4 spells simultaneously. The NPC's spellcasting was already on par with peak experts. Dairo's threefold magic array instantly stopped the incoming arcs of electricity. None of the arcs had managed to deal any damage. Seeing that Dairo was about to complete his first spell, Shadow Sword hurriedly directed his divine magic dragon to attack the NPC from another direction. Dark Hunt could only block attacks from one direction. It was useless against attacks from other angles. However, just when the divine magic dragon's claw was about to reach Dairo, the NPC disappeared once again. This time, he reappeared 100 yards away from the attacking dragon. Tier 3 spell, Advanced Movement. Crap. Supplementary casting. The magical class experts' minds were blown when they saw Dairo appear 100 yards away from the divine magic dragon. Advanced Movement was not a particularly rare spell. It was actually a common spell that Tier 3 magical class NPCs used. What was truly astounding was the way Dairo had used the spell. In a way, supplementary casting was similar to double casting, but rather than channeling 2 spells at the same time, one could abruptly cast the second spell midway through casting their first spell when supplementary casting. This technique was even more difficult than double speed casting. Meanwhile, before the divine magic dragon could reach Dairo to launch another attack, the NPC finished writing the last line of divine runes for his spell. A sneer twisted Dairo's wizened face. "Do you think you can stop me, the dark wizard Dairo, with a lowly summoned creature?" Dairo said as he looked at Xueqi as he made a wave with his staff. Suddenly, cracks in space began to split the sky. Boundless evil energy then flooded out of these cracks and gathered at the tip of Dairo's staff. After gathering enough evil energy, Dairo created 21 pitch-black spears around him with another wave of his staff. Silver arcs of electricity crackled along these spears. Tier 4 Curse, Destruction Spear. Go! Dairo waved his hand. The 21 pitch-black spears flew towards the divine magic dragon. As the product of a Tier 4 curse, each pitch-black spear carried a frightening amount of power. When Shadow Sword tried to attack the spears with the divine magic dragon, repelling one spear actually pushed the dragon back slightly. The strength within the pitch-black spears was actually on par with the dragon's. Although both sides had equal strength, there were 21 pitch-black spears. Meanwhile, when players controlled a summoned creature, they couldn't control it as easily as their own body, which ultimately decreased their combat standards when controlling the creature. Hence, even though Shadow Sword had reached the refinement realm, he was only able to block 5 or 6 spears at a time, while the remaining weapons struck the divine magic dragon. For a time, the divine magic dragon was at a complete disadvantage as the spears pushed it back towards Zero Wing's defensive magic array. Time to finish this. Dairo waved his staff again, joining 2 of the pitch-black spears into one weapon and striking at the divine magic dragon, the attack carrying far more strength than the individual summoned weapons. However, just before the combination attack reached the divine magic dragon, suddenly, a flash of black light bloomed before the divine magic dragon. At the same time, the combined spears that flew towards the dragon's chest veered off course. The 2 weapons then split as they brushed past the scales on the dragon's sides harmlessly. This confused Dairo slightly. What's going on? The dragon dodged the attack. No, that's not it. Look at Zero Wing's summoning array. Ha! Isn't that black flame? The spectating crowd was dumbfounded for a moment by the sudden development. They failed to understand how the divine magic dragon had become powerful enough to stop the pitch-black spear's combination attack. However, some players with keen eyesight quickly noticed that Shadow Sword was no longer standing in the summoning array for the divine magic dragon. Xueqi had actually taken his place. Black flame. Do you think you can change this outcome just by switching controllers? Beast Emperor could not help but laugh when he saw Xueqi controlling the divine magic dragon. Summoned creatures were not as easy to control as a player's body. Naturally, a domain realm expert would have far more control of a summoned creature than a refinement realm expert. The realms of refinement improved a player's 5 senses, but players simply couldn't merge their senses completely with a summoned creature's. As a result, one's combat power when controlling a summoned creature was considerably limited. They changed controllers? Dairo muttered as he glanced at the distant summoning array. As a mythic NPC, his intellect was incredibly high. Hence, he was quickly able to assess any changes on the battlefield. However, the surprise in Dairo's eyes quickly faded, replaced by ridicule. Foolish mortals, do you think you can stop my destruction spears because you've gained more control of a lowly summoned creature? All you've done is prolonged your suffering. Saying so, Dairo combined 20 spears into 10 pairs, attacking Xueqi with all of them at once. Seeing the 10 incoming attacks, Xueqi executed Sword's orbit with the divine magic dragon's claws. Dang, dang, dang. A series of clangs echoed throughout the primordial divine ruin. In the end, Xueqi's dragon knocked every one of the 20 destruction spears aside. The spears hadn't even budged the dragon an inch, much less damaged the divine magic dragon. Chapter 1715. Miraculous Effect of the Realms of Truth. Chapter 1715. Miraculous Effect of the Realms of Truth. He blocked all of the attacks. How is that possible? All of the players at the Primordial Divine Ruin were experts. Quite a few of them were even Refinement Realm experts, so they all recognized how impressive the technique Dairo had just executed was. In their opinions, Dairo's 10 combination attacks were simply splendid. Even if there was no difference in basic attributes, the refinement realms among the spectating crowd weren't confident in blocking all of those attacks without backing up in the slightest. Their likelihood of success would be even lower if they had to do so with a summoned creature. Yet, not only had Xueqi successfully blocked every one of Dairo's attacks, but he had also done so with the divine magic dragon. His control is amazing. Shock flashed in Blue Jade's eyes as she watched the divine magic dragon in the sky. So, this is the strength of the expert closest to achieving a domain. As a Tier 2 summoner, she had a much clearer idea of how difficult it was to control a summoned creature than other players. It was practically impossible for players to control a summoned creature as well as they did their own bodies. This fact held true even for herself. Despite reaching the flowing water realm, Her combat standards with a summoned creature were barely at the trial tower's 6th floor. Even if she made a breakthrough and reached the Void Realm, she was only confident in raising her combat standard, when controlling a summoned creature, to the middle stage of the trial tower's 6th floor. Yet, Xueqi could actually reach the refinement realm with the divine magic dragon. This was simply unbelievable. Meanwhile, hovering in midair, Dairo stopped trying to defeat his opponent's vile quality of attacks after watching his first volley fail. Instead, he had the 21 destruction spears attack simultaneously from different directions. Suddenly, numerous streaks of pitch-black light threatened to devour the divine magic dragon. This bastard! He was actually holding back against me? Shadow Sword tightly balled his fist, frustration filling his gaze as he watched the destruction spears dance in the air. When he had controlled the divine magic dragon, Dairo's attacks with the destruction spears had been very straightforward. The NPC hadn't used any particular techniques. Now, however, the destruction spears moved in a coordinated and well-choreographed pattern. These movements were obviously the result of some sort of combat technique. Even if there weren't a difference between Shadow Sword and his opponent's attributes, he felt that he'd be lucky to block a handful of the spears if he tried to defend against the coordinated attacks personally. As the destruction spears were about to plow into the divine magic dragon, Xueqi decided to charge forward, rather than retreat. He controlled the divine magic dragon to fly headfirst into the approaching spears. What is he trying to do? Xueqi's actions dumbfounded the spectating crowd. Although the destruction spears couldn't kill the divine magic dragon, if all 21 spears struck the summoned creature, the impact would certainly send it flying several hundred yards back. If that happened, Dairo would have plenty of opportunities to destroy Zero Wing's defensive magic array. However, as everyone assumed that Xueqi was trying to force his way through the attacks, the divine magic dragon began to maneuver agilely around the spears and rapidly closed the distance between it and Dairo. Any destruction spear that came near the dragon either brushed past its scales, or the summoned creature batted it away with a claw. They couldn't actually hit the divine magic dragon. If one wasn't paying attention, they might even assume that the destruction spears had actively avoided the dragon. Flowing Water Realm. Blue Jade could not help but rub her eyes as she watched the scene before her, unable to believe it. However, no matter how she looked at the situation, the divine magic dragon's combat standard was definitely at the Flowing Water Realm. There was no other way it could block all of those spear attacks. However, the situation also left her confused. Just how did Xueqi accomplish such a feat? How could something like this be possible? They were talking about controlling a summoned creature here. Blue Jade wasn't the only one who was shocked. The many experts at the primordial divine ruin were similarly stupefied. Leaving aside Xueqi's personal combat standard, his control of summoned creatures could definitely rank at the very top of God's domain. So, this is the true benefit of the realms of truth? Xueqi, who evaded the relentless destruction spears, felt the true power of the realms of truth for the first time. Unlike the realms of refinement, the realms of truth focused on exerting the maximum potential of one's body, rather than the 5 senses. Hence, even when controlling the divine magic dragon, his performance in the realms of truth had reached the Ascension realm. After deflecting the endless spear attacks for a short moment, the divine magic dragon Xueqi controlled arrived before Dairo. Xueqi then had the summoned creature slap at the NPC. However, Dairo was still a mythic NPC, and his reaction speed was extremely fast. Before the massive claw could reach him, he used advanced instantaneous movement and appeared 100 yards away from his original location. However, not wanting to give the NPC time to breathe, Xueqi charged forward once again. Suddenly, Dairo was at a disadvantage and had no choice but to evade Xueqi's attacks physically. While evading, Dairo continued to chant incantations and write divine runes. Although Xueqi realized what the NPC was doing, he couldn't do anything about it. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. After chanting for a total of 24 seconds, Dairo abruptly stopped and sneered at the divine magic dragon before him. Fall into eternal darkness. Dairo shouted before twirling the staff in his right hand. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and 36 gigantic magic arrays appeared around the divine magic dragon. Pitch-black chains then emerged from the magic arrays, binding the dragon. The chains then bound the divine magic dragon in a gigantic pitch-black ball. Tier 4 Curse. Dark Prison. Although the divine magic dragon was powerful, not even a monster of its caliber would be able to struggle free from a Tier 4 curse's restrictions. After all, a Tier 4 curse had the power to rival Tier 5 spells. Crap! The divine magic dragon has been tied up. Shadow Sword's expression darkened when he saw Dairo fly towards Zero Wing's defensive magic array after casting the Tier 4 curse. Although the movement-type defensive magic array was strong, it would only last a few hits from a Tier 4 NPC. Moreover, unlike monsters, a magical class NPC like Dairo would have an acute understanding of magic arrays. Breaking through a defensive magic array would be child's play for Dairo. Once the defensive magic array was gone, the remaining evil demons and evil beasts would be more than enough to annihilate Zero Wing's army several times over even if Dairo didn't get involved. Black Flame, your time is up. Beast Emperor revealed a victorious grin as he watched Dairo move closer to Zero Wing's defensive magic array. He had been slightly concerned that the divine magic dragon would be too much for Dairo to handle, but at the end of the day, a Tier 4 NPC was still a Tier 4 NPC. Although Dairo was no match for the divine magic dragon in a direct confrontation, he would have no trouble binding it for a short time, just long enough for Dairo to wipe out a bunch of Tier 2 players. This made Zero Wing's members in the defensive magic array nervous. Elsewhere, 2 mythic evil beasts had managed to force their way past Flying Shadow's divine magic dragon. The 2 mythic evil beasts then coordinated with Dairo. It was obvious that they planned to break through the defensive magic array with a single attack. The watching players could already picture the defensive magic array shattering under the 3 Tier 4 existences combined assault when Dairo and the 2 mythic evil beasts were less than 100 yards away from the barrier around Zero Wing's members. It seems Zero Wing is doomed this time, Quiet Melody said, sighing. Although this battle had been a close one, Zero Wing still wasn't strong enough. She had never imagined that not only would Beast Emperor convince a Tier 4 NPC to take action for him, but that the NPC would also wield so many Tier 4 curses. So, this is the true strength of a Tier 4 NPC. Despite watching Dairo and the 2 evil Earth Dragons approach, Xueqi didn't reveal any signs of fear or despair. Instead, he quickly gave Shadow Sword control of the divine magic dragon as he took out the Tier 4 domain scroll that he had obtained after killing the tyrant's soul. When he activated the Tier 4 domain scroll, a blue light rippled away from him, extending to a 1,000-yard radius. Suddenly, all enemies within range of the domain skill were suppressed. Because of this, Dairo, who had already been suppressed by the divine magic dragon's domain skill, lost even more attributes and reaction speed. Now, he only had 80% of his original basic attributes. Against a Tier 4 NPC like Dairo, the effects of the Tier 4 domain scroll were quite astonishing. Unfortunately, Dairo was still unstoppable for players. After activating the domain scroll, Xueqi took a summon guard scroll from his bag and summoned Anna. Why is the guild leader summoning his personal guard? Aqua Rose, Gentle Snow, and the Zero Wing's other members were confused to see Anna join the battlefield. They were no strangers to Anna. She, without a doubt, had the most frightening growth potential of any personal guard they had seen in the game. In one-on-one combat, she could even defeat opponents of a higher tier. However, Anna was only a Tier 2 NPC. Even if Dairo's attributes and reaction speed were suppressed, Anna still had no hope of taking him down. However, as Zero Wing's members doubted Xueqi's sanity, Xueqi retrieved a crimson potion from his bag and handed it to Anna. After receiving the potion, Anna removed the lid on the bottle and drank it without hesitation. Players weren't the only ones who could use potions in God's domain. NPCs could as well. The Crimson Potion was none other than the Grandmaster ranked growth potion Xueqi had obtained after killing Baphomet. When consumed, the potion would forcefully elevate the user by 1 tier. After consuming the potion, Anna's physique began to transform. The surrounding ambient mana flooded into her, and as it did, golden divine runes began to decorate Anna's body, adding a hint of holiness and beauty to her appearance. Anna's aura had also undergone a heaven-defying transformation. If her previous aura was like flowing water, her new aura felt like the endless ocean. If one paid close attention, they would notice that Anna was no longer a Tier 2 NPC, but a bona fide Tier 3 NPC. How is this possible? Even the various major powers and Beast Emperor had noticed Anna's transformation, let alone Zero Wing's members. After all, her rise from a Tier 2 NPC to Tier 3 had caused quite the commotion. Alright, let's begin the second round. Xueqi smiled at the approaching Dairo. Chapter 1716. Tier 3 Anna. Chapter 1716. Tier 3 Anna. A Tier 3 personal guard? Beast Emperor, who watched the battle through a crystal ball in the Evil God's branch temple, was slightly surprised when Anna appeared beside Xueqi. However, his surprise quickly turned into a sneer as he said, "Do you really think that a measly Tier 3 personal guard can stop a Tier 4 NPC?" To put it simply, personal guards were hired NPCs in God's domain. However, since they were enhanced through a contract, personal guards' basic attributes were slightly higher than ordinary NPCs of the same level. Although Anna had been promoted to Tier 3, she was only slightly stronger than other Tier 3 NPCs. She might be invincible against current players, but she was still far from being able to contend with Tier 4 existences. Meanwhile, when the Tier 4 Cursed Dark Prison was used on ordinary mythic monsters of the same level, it could trap the monster for at least an hour. Although the Divine Magic Dragon was extremely powerful, Beast Emperor guessed that the Dark Prison should hold it for at least 20 minutes. Although no one could damage the sealed monster during that time, it couldn't do anything, either. Meanwhile, relying on a Tier 3 personal guard to distract a Tier 4 NPC like Dairo was a joke. Beast Emperor wasn't the only one who thought so. Every player at the Primordial Divine Ruin agreed with the sentiment. Although only one tier separated Tier 3 and 4, the gap between the tiers' strength increased with each subsequent tier. In front of a Tier 4 NPC, a Tier 3 NPC didn't even qualify to buy time. As Dairo and the two level 80 evil earth dragons drew closer, Anna began to chant an incantation from within Zero Wing's defensive magic array. With her left hand, she swiftly drew line after line of divine runes in the air. Shortly after, two colossal magic arrays, one white and one black, appeared beside Anna. The ambient mana then began to flow towards the arrays, and Zero Wing's members could feel the mana density increase around them by several times. Double speed casting. That personal guard is quite good. She actually knows how to double speed cast. It's a pity that she's going to die here today. When the various major powers upper echelons saw Anna double speed cast, envy gripped their hearts. While NPCs were indeed powerful, there were significant differences between them. Magical class NPCs capable of double casting were already extremely rare, not to mention NPCs capable of double speed casting. This was also why they had been so surprised to learn that Dairo could both double speed cast and supplementary cast. If a personal guard grasped these techniques, they would have an advantage over other NPCs when they reached higher tiers. Take Dairo for example. Despite Dairo clearly being no match for the Divine Magic Dragon under Xueqi's control, the NPC could rely on his techniques to mitigate the Divine Magic Dragon's attacks and even entrap it. As the spectating crowd pondered such things, two pillars of light rose from the two colossal magic arrays, each taking on the color if the array it emerged from. In the next moment, three summoned creatures stepped out of each of the two light pillars. Three knights in silver armor had emerged from the white light pillar, each of which wielded a silver sword in their right hands and a shield that could easily serve as a mirror in their left. Knight of Light, Elemental Creature, Grand Lord. Level 80. HP 60, 000, 000/60, 000, 000. Meanwhile, three mages in deep black robes stepped out of the black light pillar. Each of the mages carried a staff that was shrouded in black mist. The crystals embedded in the top of the staves radiated 4 different colors. Envoy of Darkness, Elemental Creature, Grand Lord. Level 80. HP 45, 000, 000/45, 000, 000. Tier 3 Spell, Light Summoning. Tier 3 Spell, Darkness Summoning. If players used the Grandmaster ranked growth potion, they'd only rise by a single tier, but if an NPC used the potion, that'd be a different story. After Anna rose to Tier 3, she had learned all of the Tier 3 spells she would know after truly being promoted to Tier 3. Hence, right now she was a bona fide Tier 3 existence. The growth potion's only flaw was its short duration of 15 minutes. Once the potion's duration ended, Anna would revert to her original state. Hence, players had only used these potions in crucial moments in the past. They could not be treated like trump cards in guild wars or siege battles. What a powerful personal guard. The instant the 6-level 80 Grand Lords appeared beside Anna, silence fell over the spectating crowd. Nobody had thought that Anna was actually strong enough to summon 6 Grand Lords of the same level. With this, she was basically invincible among Tier 3 existences. Before the spectating crowd could recover from their shock, Anna controlled the Knights of Light and Envoys of Darkness to charge out of the defensive magic array and attack Dyro and the 2 mythic evil beasts. In the next moment, the Knights of Light vanished, reappearing instantly around their mythic-ranked targets. Once the knights surrounded their opponents in a triangular formation, they raised their shields before them. Suddenly, a magic array of light manifested beneath each of the knights, linking with each other to form a prism of light that trapped Dyro and the mythic evil beasts. Immediately, Dyro and the evil beasts' basic attributes fell once more. Now, the 3 mythic existences only retained 60% of their original attributes. Moreover, they couldn't break free of the magic barrier unless they killed the Knights of Light. By the time the Knights of Light had finished, the Envoys of Darkness had also completed their spell's chants. Pitch-black mist began to rise from the ground within the barrier, binding Dyro and the evil earth dragons. Although the mist did not reduce the 3 mythic existences' basic attributes in the least, it did reduce their reaction speed and movement speed by 50%. By the time the Knights of Light and Envoys of Darkness had further suppressed Dyro and the mythic evil beasts, Anna had finished chanting the final verse of her incantation. Tier 4 spell, Yin-Yang Cycle. Under her command, a dual-colored magic array appeared in the sky, and 36 gigantic swords emerged, 18 of which were a silvery white, while the other 18 were an abyss black. These 36 swords then descended on Dyro and the 2 evil earth dragons. Despite seeing the approaching swords, the 2 mythic evil beasts showed no intention of dodging the weapons. Instead, they swiped their claws at the incoming attacks. However, the moment one of evil beast's claws met one of the silver swords, the impact flung its claw backward, bending its arm at an awkward angle. When the other evil beast touched a black sword, the sword passed through its claw and struck the evil earth dragon, dealing over -1 million damage. As the 36 swords fell, one after another, the 2 mythic evil beasts screamed in pain and their HPs plummeted. Although the 2 evil beasts wanted to escape, the falling swords pinned them in place. Naturally, Dyro didn't dare to block any of these swords. Rather, he used spells to help him evade the attacks. He didn't have any spare energy to strike at the Knights of Light, much less attack Zero Wing's defensive magic array. Even after another 10 seconds of this bombardment, Dyro and the 2 evil earth dragons still couldn't free themselves from Anna's assault. Not only had they failed to land a single hit on Zero Wing's defensive magic array, but the 2 evil earth dragons' HP also continued to decrease. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Is that woman really a Tier 3 personal guard? Everyone watched Dyro and the mythic evil beast struggle with shocked expressions. Although Shifeng's domain scroll had suppressed Dyro and the evil beasts, significantly reducing their combat powers, a mere Tier 3 NPC shouldn't have any hope against them by herself, yet Shifeng's personal guard successfully faced them alone. Aside from the word strong, the spectating crowd truly had no other way to describe Anna. Despite Anna standing alone, her skills made her look like a team of NPCs. So, this is the strength of an epic personal guard? Xueqi was just as shocked to see Anna overwhelm Dyro and the 2 evil beasts. He had never thought that Anna could really go up against Tier 4 existences at Tier 3. With Anna's constant intervention, even after over a minute, Dyro couldn't attack the Knights of Light. In fact, the Tier 4 NPC's HP had even begun to decrease as he failed to keep up with Anna and the Envoys of Darkness's attacks. As he watched, Beast Emperor's eyes became bloodshot. However, he still wasn't particularly worried about this situation. With how powerful the potion Anna had consumed was, the potion's effects should not last very long. Once the potion's effects ended, Anna would have no power over Dyro. 1 minute. 3 minutes. 5 minutes. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, Anna remained powerful throughout the entire battle. She showed no signs of weakening in the least. After Forbidden Domain's cooldown had ended, Xueqi cast the skill on Dyro's dark prison without hesitation. The giant ball of pitch-black chains shattered instantly. The 36 pitch-black magic arrays around the ball also disappeared. Once the trapped divine magic dragon regained its freedom, It resumed its attacks against Dairo. The Divine Magic Dragon had already possessed higher attributes than the Tier 4 NPC, but after Xueqi had suppressed Dairo with his Tier 4 Domain Scroll and the Knights of Light's Prism of Light, Dairo was only slightly stronger than Grand Lords of the same level. As a result, the difference between the Divine Magic Dragon and Dairo became even more obvious. Furthermore, Xueqi's Forbidden Domain had also affected the Dark Wizard, and he couldn't use any of his spells. After freeing the trapped Divine Magic Dragon, Xueqi quickly switched places with Shadow Sword again and controlled the summoned creature to swipe at Dairo with its claw. Boom! Since the Mythic NPC couldn't use any of his spells, he had to rely on his physical prowess to block the attack. However, even though he had stopped the attack with his staff, Dairo's basic attributes were too much lower than the Divine Magic Dragon's. As a result, he still took the full brunt of the attack and received over -2 million damage. To Dairo, whose maximum HP was only at 60 million right now, that blow had taken 1/30th of his HP. Taking advantage of Dairo's helplessness, Anna followed the Divine Magic Dragon's attack with a Tier 4 spell, dealing over -7 million damage to the silenced NPC. While 60 million HP might seem like a lot to players, to the Divine Magic Dragon and Anna, this much HP was nothing. After 6 seconds of constant struggle, Dairo eventually removed the silence debuff. However, he only had 1/3 of his HP remaining by this point. To make matters worse, although Dairo could again defend himself with powerful spells, the massive difference in attributes between himself and the Magic Divine Dragon was beyond the reach of spells. As a result, the enemy dragon broke through his defense again and again, and his HP visibly decreased. Finally, when less than 1 minute remained on Anna's growth potion, Dairo's HP hit 0. The NPC elder then collapsed to the ground with a face of frustration and reluctance. Chapter 1717. Shocking Numerous Countries. Chapter 1717. Shocking Numerous Countries. As Dairo died, the dark gray evil energy consuming the sky above the primordial divine ruin faded. The land once again bathed in the sun's glaring rays. Many of Zero Wing's army abruptly leveled up as the Tier 4 NPC awarded more abundant EXP than any ordinary mythic monster. Unlike mythic monsters, the NPC dropped only 2 items when he had died. After these 2 items appeared, the evil energy surrounding the old man's body quickly dissipated, and shortly after, his body transformed into ash that scattered with the wind. He died. A Tier 4 NPC was killed, just like that. Everyone at the primordial divine ruin watched Dairo's disintegrating corpse in utter disbelief. After playing God's Domain for so long, everyone was terrifyingly familiar with the strength of Tier 4 NPCs. They were powerhouses that could guard and rule over major NPC cities. They were definitely invincible to current players. Yet, players had just slain one such NPC. This situation had overturned everything they thought they had known about God's Domain. How is this possible? That's a Tier 4 Dark Wizard we're talking about. Beast Emperor's countenance twisted as he stared at Dairo's corpse through the gigantic crystal ball in the Evil God's Branch Temple. He had spent nearly all of his Evil God's Temple contribution points to get Dairo to participate in the battle. Aside from getting rid of Zero Wing, he also wanted to give the various superpowers a warning. He wanted everyone to know that the Orc Empire was his territory, yet both his main and side objectives had failed. Back on the battlefield, the players from the various major powers and adventurer teams weren't the only ones shocked by Dairo's death. Even Zero Wing's members stared at the NPC's corpse with dumbfounded expressions. Did we succeed? Aqua Rose muttered, finding what had just happened a little hard to believe. Relax. He's dead. Although Tier 4 NPCs are powerful, they're not invincible. Everyone, continue killing the evil demons and evil beasts. The battle is not over yet, Xueqi said, chuckling. Shadow Sword, come take back control over the dragon. While Tier 4 NPCs were very powerful, they were not insurmountable. As players reached higher levels and gained more strength, some would even take out the level 200 Tier 4 NPCs that protected major NPC cities, let alone a lowly level 80 Tier 4 NPC. Understood. Shadow Sword snapped out of his daze and nodded. Once Shadow Sword took control back, Xueqi activated Gale Domain, transforming into a blur as he dashed towards Dairo's ashes. NPCs like Dairo rarely dropped loot, which was why players weren't usually interested in killing God's Domain's NPCs. Not only were NPCs built to counter players, but they also didn't drop much loot even after they died. Normally, players wouldn't bother with such a thankless task unless they had no other choice. As for the Tier 4 NPCs that protected cities, they almost never dropped loot. And due to the city's magic arrays, these NPCs would command even more combat power. To make matters worse, if players killed a city's protector, the city's kingdom or empire would post a bounty on their head. If players had a working brain, they wouldn't provoke an NPC city's Tier 4 NPCs without a very good reason. However, in the rare event such NPCs dropped loot, the items would definitely be top tier. Although Xueqi didn't need to worry about anyone stealing Dairo's loot due to the evil beasts and demons on the battlefield, he thought it would be best to be safe, rather than sorry. On the off chance that some suicidal players decided to give it a go, reclaiming the loot would be troublesome. The two evil earth dragons were still trapped in the Knights of Light's Prism of Light, and Anna and the Divine Magic Dragon had them thoroughly pinned down. This allowed Xueqi to reach Dairo's partly disintegrated corpse easily. After retrieving the two items the NPC had dropped, he immediately turned and fled back to the defensive magic array. When the major powers players saw this, their eyes became bloodshot with envy. That was a Tier 4 NPC's loot. Even if they didn't know what the items were exactly, due to how powerful Dairo had been, those items were guaranteed to be extraordinary. However, although they were jealous, none of them dared to take action. Whether the Divine Magic Dragons or Anna's level 80 Knights of Light and Envoys of Darkness came after them, all of these beings were ridiculously powerful. Even if they charged onto the battlefield to steal the loot, they would simply add to these monsters' kill counts. Meanwhile, as the various superpowers' upper echelons watched the two Divine Magic Dragons battle, jealousy gripped their hearts. If Xueqi could summon more Divine Magic Dragons, then nobody in the Orc Empire could beat the guild, not even Beast Emperor. However, they also realized that even if Xueqi could summon more of these dragons, it should only be able to do so a limited number of times. It was even possible that Xueqi only had these two summoning arrays. Otherwise, the guild could have summoned a third Divine Magic Dragon to take out Dairo, rather than giving Anna a rare potion to increase her strength. A potion that could elevate a personal guard by 1 tier was far more valuable than a Divine Magic Dragon. Each of these dragons required 88 summoners, which had to be protected at all times. On the other hand, the potion Anna had consumed could be carried and used without such challenging restrictions. Of course, that was just an assumption. They'd have to investigate the situation slowly through their spies in Xueqi to learn the exact truth of the matter. But it was safe to say that from today on, no one would dare to provoke Xueqi at the primordial divine ruin. When Xueqi returned to the defensive magic array, he continued to command Xueqi's army as they slaughtered the evil beasts and demons. After they killed 2 mythic evil beasts and 30,000 plus lower-ranked evil beasts and evil demons, Beast Emperor finally gave up and recalled his minions from the primordial divine ruin. Even Beast Emperor is helpless against Xueqi. Falling Fire, who watched the battle from a safe distance with a magic mirror, frowned as he watched this outcome. He had planned to send Blackwater's army back to the ruin after Beast Emperor had severely wounded Xueqi's forces, but it seemed that his plan was no longer viable. Sure enough, Xueqi still won. Amazing! This is simply amazing. Xueqi actually forced back an army of 100,000 plus evil demons and evil beasts with a little over 1,000 players. With this, Beast Emperor has lost his position as the Orc Empire's overlord. The spectating crowd at the primordial divine ruin could not help but shudder with excitement as they watched the evil demons and evil beasts frantically flee. Xueqi had come to the primordial divine ruin with fewer than 2,000 players, yet not only had it defeated Blackwater's 10,000-strong army, but it had also pushed back a force of 100,000 plus monsters. In the midst of the battle, Xueqi had even killed a Tier 4 NPC and 2 Tier 4 evil beasts. The watching players finally understood just how powerful Xueqi was. The various superpowers, in particular, felt a sliver of fear as they watched the guild. At the very least, they didn't want to make an enemy of Xueqi within the Orc Empire's boundaries. After all, nobody could say for certain that Xueqi couldn't summon more divine magic dragons. As the battle ended, news of Xueqi's shocking victory at the primordial divine ruin quickly spread to the kingdoms and empires neighboring the Orc Empire. Meanwhile, This news didn't only reach the ears of the various large guilds as even ordinary players learned of the battle. The news had reached so many players because many of the players at the Primordial Divine Ruin were from adventurer teams, as well. Many of these adventurer teams members began to upload the videos they had recorded of the battle to their respective countries' forums. Crap! Is this really a battle between players? Why does it feel more like a battle between NPCs? Quick look! Isn't that a Tier 4 NPC? What? Xueqi even managed to kill a Tier 4 NPC. Due to this masterpiece of a battle, Xueqi's fame in the various kingdoms and empires rose significantly. Many players even began to consider joining Xueqi. For a time, countless players swarmed towards White River City and Xueqi City. Black Flame. Don't think that you've won the war just because you've won this battle. A cold glint flashed in Beast Emperor's eyes as he read the forum posts. Since you've severed one of my limbs, I'll make sure that Xueqi never sets foot in the Orc Empire again. He admitted that his evil demon and evil beast army had been defeated, and the loss had been significant. However, he knew very well that the divine magic dragons were summoned creatures. They could only exist for a limited amount of time. Once that duration ended, he could simply send his minions back to the Primordial Divine Ruin and slaughter Xueqi's army. Even if Xueqi could summon the divine magic dragons again, he could just order another retreat and attack at a later time. He had more than enough evil demons and evil beasts to bleed Xueqi dry. Starmoon Kingdom, White River City. After seeing that the battle was over, Xueqi used a return scroll to return to White River City. However, Xueqi did not head directly to the War God's Temple. Instead, he visited White River City's Adventurers Association. In a VIP room on the Adventurers Association's second floor. When one of the association's senior administrators entered the room, he greeted Xueqi, who rested on a sofa, and asked, "Lord Protector, how may I be of service today?" "I wish to build a town in a neutral map outside of the kingdom, and I need the Adventurers Association's help," Xueqi said, nodding. He then revealed the town building order he had acquired from the lost town. Chapter 17:18. Building a Neutral Town. Chapter 17:18. Building a Neutral Town. Inside the luxurious VIP room, the NPC senior adopted a more respectful attitude towards Xueqi upon watching the swordsman pull a tattered piece of parchment from his bag and place it on the table. Following which, the NPC inspected the parchment carefully. Although the town building order was nowhere near as valuable as a Starmoon Kingdom city building order on its own, it could rival, even surpass, the value of the Kingdom city building order depending on how it was used. This was because the town building order didn't have location restrictions. One could even construct a town in a neutral map if they wished to. Neutral maps were not under any kingdom or empire's jurisdiction, so building a town in one of these maps was akin to securing rule over the map. On the other hand, while the Starmoon Kingdom city building order was indeed very valuable, the city built had to be constructed within Starmoon Kingdom's borders. In other words, the city would still be under the kingdom's jurisdiction and would be largely influenced by the kingdom. The simplest example of such influence was the monthly management fee towns and cities had to pay the kingdom. For a basic city like Xueqi City, players had to pay a monthly management fee of 30,000 gold. If the city were promoted to an intermediate or advanced city, the fee would increase by several times. However, if a town or city were constructed in a neutral map, players wouldn't be required to hand over an exorbitant management fee to any kingdom or empire. Instead, players only had to pay a small management fee to the system. Of course, such a benefit had a huge drawback: the lack of safety. Towns and cities within a kingdom or empire were under that kingdom or empire's protection. Monster attacks were the greatest threat these towns and cities would have to face. However, monsters weren't the only threat in a neutral map. Raids from other races would be commonplace, as well. If a guild weren't strong enough, building a town in a neutral map would simply be a waste of manpower and resources. In fact, guilds had often overestimated their strength during Xueqi's previous life, constructing towns in neutral maps, which were subsequently destroyed. However, this drawback included another benefit, which was the greatest benefit of building a town in a neutral map. Since neutral maps were not under a kingdom or empire's jurisdiction, guild towns and guild cities in neutral maps could trade with other races. God's domain had many different races. Aside from creatures with low intellect, which only knew how to slaughter other beings for survival, there were intelligent races that could communicate with players, such as dwarves, elves, orcs, half-elves, and half-orcs. Only, these races were prohibited from entering guild towns and cities within kingdoms and empires' borders. At most, players might encounter these races in NPC towns and cities, but even then, these races would only conduct basic trade with players. However, these foreign races produced many products that were better than those made by human hands. Moreover, each race had their own specialty products that would be of great help to players' survival when fighting in the fields. Take dwarven-made weapons and equipment, for example. As the dwarves had better techniques and special forging methods, their weapons and equipment performed far better than human-made products. Meanwhile, guild towns in neutral maps weren't prohibited from trading with foreign races. As long as a town were attractive enough, it could inspire members of the foreign races to visit. Aside from trade, players could also employ foreign races to serve as the town's soldiers. Unlike human warriors, these races' warriors generally specialized in a particular aspect. Hence, guilds that had towns in neutral maps in the past had hired foreign races' warriors to protect their towns. Because of these aspects, although neutral towns didn't seem any different than ordinary guild towns, they could actually function like miniature kingdoms in neutral maps. Although the neutral town couldn't compare to kingdoms and empires in every aspect, it had the qualities to become one. Lord Protector, I have ascertained that there are no problems with your town building order. May I know where you wish to build your town? The NPC administrator respectfully asked as he stored the town building order. He then took out a crystal ball and placed it on the table. In the next moment, a map of God's domain appeared in the crystal ball. Here, Xueqi said as he pointed at the Orc Empire's primordial divine ruin. Constructing a town in a neutral map wasn't like building one in a kingdom or empire. Kingdoms and empires would never intervene in matters outside of their borders. Hence, when building a town in a neutral map, the Adventurers Association was fully responsible for handling the town's construction. Lord Protector, this location is currently quite chaotic. The lowest level monsters nearby are above level 50. Orcs also wreak havoc in the area. If you wish to build a town there, it will be costly. The basic construction fees alone come to 40,000 gold. If you wish to employ guards, each level 100, Tier 1 adventurer will cost 3 gold per day, 10 gold per day for a Tier 2 adventurer, and 100 gold per day for a Tier 3 adventurer. You will also only be allowed to employ them for a maximum of 3 days. Do you wish to hire any guards? I'll hire 1,000 Tier 1 adventurers, 500 Tier 2 adventurers, and 20 Tier 3 adventurers for 3 days. This wasn't the first time Xueqi had built a neutral town, so the cost didn't particularly surprise him. While neutral maps were extremely dangerous, the profit one could obtain from them was immense. Hence, towns in neutral maps were only given 3-day protection periods. Not only were these NPC guards expensive, but their levels wouldn't scale along with players, remaining only slightly higher than the local monsters. These NPC guards were mainly there to repel monster and foreign race assaults, not players. Xueqi had recently earned a fortune from selling the equipment it had obtained after killing Heaven's Burial and Blackwater's members. It also had the profit from Stone Forest Town and Xueqi City. However, since a large part of the money had to be invested in the guild's development, Xueqi only had a little over 80,000 gold in the bank right now. The construction alone cost 40,000 gold, which was many times higher than building a town within Star Moon Kingdom. With how expensive the adventurers were, Xueqi didn't dare to hire too many at once. Furthermore, if a town wished to survive in a neutral map long-term, relying on temporary guards definitely wasn't a viable solution. Hence, the guild had to set some money aside to build static defenses in the town as well. Alright. Your total bill comes to 70,000 gold. No discounts are available at this time, the NPC administrator said, nodding. Once you complete the payment, the Adventurers Association will send our people to the chosen location within 1 minute. It will take them roughly 20 minutes to complete the town's construction. 20 minutes? The senior administrator's explanation surprised Xueqi a little. He had never thought that the town's construction would take so long. When the Adventurers Association constructed a town in a nearby neutral map, it normally completed the construction within 10 minutes. Unlike cities, towns had fewer facilities and structures, after all. But his town required twice as long to construct. One could just imagine how dangerous the area around the primordial divine ruin was right now. However, Xueqi did not give the matter much thought. He handed 70,000 gold to the NPC and departed from the Adventurers Association. He then headed to the War God's Temple to earn himself some merit points. While Xueqi was on his way to the War God's Temple, he received a call from Aqua Rose. Guild leader, another problem has cropped up at the primordial divine ruin. As soon as we left the ruin, Beast Emperor sent his evil beasts and evil demons to surround the ruin again. We still can't send our elite members to garrison in the ruin, Aqua Rose reported with a somber expression. She hadn't expected Beast Emperor to be so shameless, making such a move. One of Beast Emperor's subordinates has also contacted us, informing us that he won't stop harassing us at the primordial divine ruin unless we release Flame Blood. Although Beast Emperor's actions were shameless, Zero Wing couldn't do anything about it. Zero Wing only had 2 magic arrays that could summon divine magic dragons, and both had been used during the previous battle. Now that Zero Wing had nothing to counter the evil beast and demon armies, sending in a player army would be suicidal. He's prepared to fight to the bitter end? Xueqi could not help but chuckle. Since that is the case, let him have his fun. We'll see how long he can continue his struggle. But what about Primordial City? Aqua Rose could tell that Xueqi was determined to destroy Beast Emperor thoroughly. However, Primordial City played a key role in helping Zero Wing's members reach Tier 2. Just ignore him, Xueqi said. For now, gather every architect in the Candlelight trading firm and have them gather in the guild residence. Then, contact Melancholic and tell her to prepare these materials for me. I'll need them in a moment. After saying so, Xueqi disconnected the call and quietly waited for his horse carriage to reach the War God's Temple. Meanwhile, Aqua Rose stared at the darkened screen before her with a confused look. Is it really fine to leave him alone? Aqua Rose muttered to herself worriedly. However, the expression Xueqi has worn during their conversation indicated that he had a well-thought-out plan in mind. Immediately, she shook her worries out of her mind and sent Beast Emperor's subordinate a reply. Once that was done, she started to gather the necessary manpower and notified Melancholic Smile to collect the necessary materials. Ancient Rock City. Good. Very good. When Beast Emperor received Aqua Rose's reply via his subordinate, his complexion turned frighteningly ashen, and killing intent radiated from his entire body. He had never thought that Xueqi would be mad enough to fight him to the bitter end. Just as Beast Emperor was about to declare a war of annihilation on Zero Wing, the sound of a system notification reached his ears. System announcement. Congratulations to Zero Wing for being the first guild to construct a town in a neutral map. Rewarding 30,000 guild popularity and 10,000 popularity to the new town. Chapter 1719. Zero Wing's Town. Chapter 1719. Zero Wing's Town. A town in a neutral map? Beast Emperor stared at the system announcement, stunned. He wasn't unfamiliar with a town's construction. After all, many guilds had constructed towns within the various kingdoms and empires before. However, the building a town in a neutral map held an entirely different meaning. Neutral maps lacked teleportation points. Players could only rely on their own power to travel to neutral maps. If a guild constructed a guild town in a neutral map, its guild members could guild transfer scrolls to teleport to said town once it had a guild residence, saving plenty of travel time. Moreover, unlike a captured town, which had a fixed location, the owner could construct their town wherever they wished. Neutral maps were rich in resources, but the various major powers had only captured pre-made towns thus far. Nobody had successfully built a town in a neutral map yet. Even so, these powers had reaped plenty of benefits from their captured towns. If they could build a town in a strategic location and occupy it, they could definitely secure more resources. Meanwhile, at the Orc Empire's primordial divine ruin, the players from the various major powers and adventurer teams, who were preparing to fight for the ruin's entry slots, were watching towards the southwest, an indescribable shock filling their gazes. Suddenly, a town had popped up in the highlands southwest of the primordial divine ruin. Combined with the previous system announcement, any fool would realize that this constructed town belonged to Zero Wing. Am I dreaming? How is this possible? Zero Wing is so awesome. The guild even had the means to construct a town here? Looking at the fully formed town, the various large guilds at the primordial divine ruin looked on with envy. Meanwhile, the eyes of the various adventurers glowed with excitement. Having a town so close to the primordial divine ruin was a dream. The primordial divine ruin was an important resource, which the various major powers competed for. These powers had even expended endless manpower and resources just to get more members into the ruin. Now that Xueqi had built a town beside the primordial divine ruin, the guild would have a massive advantage over the other powers when competing for entry slots. First, Xueqi could easily mobilize a large number of guild members to the primordial divine ruin. Xueqi's members would not have to face hours of travel. Second, the players that Xueqi garrisoned in the ruin wouldn't have to worry about repairing gear and replenishing supplies. The primordial divine ruin wasn't a town, and even though it offered hotels for players to rest in, there were a limited number available. Moreover, the cost was beyond exorbitant. Not even large guilds could necessarily afford for thousands of their members to rent rooms from the hotels. Yet if players set up camp outside of the ruin, their stamina and concentration recovery would be incredibly slow. This prevented them from grinding the surrounding monsters and leveling up efficiently. However, towns were a different story. A town could accommodate more players, and most importantly, players could repair their weapons and equipment in a town. Although the primordial divine ruin had restaurants and hotels, it didn't have any smithies. Hence, players would have to return to their respective towns and cities to repair their gear after grinding around the ruin for some time. With these two advantages, Xueqi could secure a powerful position in the competition over the primordial divine ruin's resources. While the various large guilds were furious over Xueqi building a guild town next to the ruin, the various adventurer teams were elated. The participating adventurer teams were still far weaker than the various large guilds in the competition for entry slots. After all, unlike adventurer teams, the various large guilds had many members under their command, and could afford to garrison their members in the primordial divine ruin in shifts without affecting their total combat power within the ruin. However, now that a town had been built next to the primordial divine ruin, the various adventurer teams could use it as a temporary base, staying close to the ruin long-term. With this, the various adventurer teams could compete with the various large guilds on a more even playing field. Meanwhile, news of Xueqi's new town in the Orc Empire quickly spread to the neighboring kingdoms and empires. For a time, the various large guilds and independent experts were all talking about Xueqi. Xueqi's rise is certain now. Not only does the guild have the advanced combat rooms and a guild city, but it also has built a town right beside the Orc Empire's primordial divine ruin. That's right. I heard that many independent experts have chosen to join Xueqi to better develop themselves. Apparently, not only has the guild reserved specific advanced combat rooms for its members, but Xueqi members can also learn the guild's combat techniques for a much lower price than non-guild players. I knew I should have joined Xueqi earlier. Many independent experts from the various kingdoms and empires neighboring the Orc Empire were tempted to join Xueqi after learning about the guild's latest achievement. They hadn't known much about Xueqi previously, and those that had known hadn't had a particularly optimistic view of the guild. However, that had all changed after the guild's overwhelming victory against Blackwater and Beast Emperor. Now that Xueqi had constructed a guild town beside the primordial divine ruin, even a fool could tell that the guild had a very high chance of becoming a super first-rate guild in the future. Many expert players targeted super first-rate guilds. If one could become an internal member of such an organization, they'd be able to live a life free of worry in the real world. However, super first-rate guilds had plenty of expert players, and only a limited number of people could become internal members. Hence, the competition within super first-rate guilds was intense. However, if players joined a guild that had the potential to become a super first-rate guild, even if they were only ordinary experts, they still had a high chance of becoming an internal member. Thinking about the potential benefits, many of the various kingdoms and empires' experts hurried towards Star Moon Kingdom. For a time, more players gathered before Xueqi's residence in White River City and Xueqi City, allowing the guild to recruit another large batch of elite and expert players. Meanwhile, when Aqua Rose, who was gathering the architects Xuefeng had requested, found out about Xueqi's new town, realization dawned on her. She was also instantly overjoyed. Now that Xueqi had a guild town beside the primordial divine ruin, the guild would have a much easier time collecting combat techniques and entering Primordial City. Most importantly, The town would bring in a massive amount of income for Zero-Wing. Nowadays, a large number of players grinded and leveling in the Orc Empire. All of these players were elites and experts from the various kingdoms and empires, and they all had plenty of resources. Meanwhile, there were only a few guild towns in the Orc Empire. Furthermore, Ancient Rock City, which had been a hub for players, had become an evil demon nest. This further limited the number of rest areas for players. Now that a new guild town had popped up beside the primordial divine ruin, tons of expert and elite players would swarm the town, giving Zero-Wing access to all sorts of rare resources. The guild's new town would likely be even more profitable than Stone Forest Town, and for Zero-Wing's members, this was a golden opportunity to visit the Orc Empire to grind. Their leveling efficiency in the neutral map would definitely be faster than grinding in Star Moon Kingdom. Meanwhile, Xueqi, who sat in an advanced horse carriage as he headed towards White River City's War God's Temple, remained wholly ignorant of the commotion Zero-Wing's new town had caused. All he knew was that his new town's construction had been completed. The system had also notified him that he needed to inspect the town and complete the handover procedures. However, Xueqi wasn't focused on his newest town, but on the contents of his bag. While he had been embroiled in battle, he hadn't had the chance to inspect his harvest. Now that things had settled down, he had to go through the items. After all, he had obtained much from the battle at the primordial divine ruin. Not only had Zero-Wing's army killed a large number of Blackwater experts, but it had also taken down 2 mythic evil beasts and a mythic ranked NPC. Among the top-tier equipment Blackwater's experts had dropped, the best had to be the magic weapon from Singular Burial. The magic weapon was a longbow called Firmament Striker. Magic weapons were even rarer than epic weapons. They were also much stronger than epic weapons. Unfortunately, wielding a magic weapon came with some severe risks. The 2 mythic ranked evil beasts had also dropped splendid items. The monsters had dropped a growth-type epic ranked mage robe and an evil energy potion recipe, an advanced alchemy recipe. The evil energy potion was a precious potion that when consumed, increases player's strength attribute by 15% and gave its user a certain amount of evil energy resistance for 2 hours. Naturally, the potion's main material was evil energy crystals. However, these items did little to hold Xueqi's attention as he was most eager to find out what the mythic NPC, Dairo, had dropped. Mythic NPCs rarely dropped items, but when they did, the items were definitely top tier. Following which, Xueqi retrieved the 2 items Dairo had dropped from his bag. He then appraised them with omniscient eyes. Chapter 1720. Evil God's Inheritance. Chapter 1720. Evil God's Inheritance. When Xueqi started appraising the 2 items Dairo dropped, the mana density inside the closed carriage rapidly increased. Like 2 hungry beasts that had just woken up, the 2 items absorbed the ambient mana around them ravenously. This situation surprised Xueqi somewhat. He had never thought that the 2 items Dairo dropped would be so amazing. Right now, the mana density in the carriage was slightly above even that of Stone Forest Town. The mana absorption process eventually stopped after about 10 seconds. The situation inside the carriage then quickly reverted to its original state. Previously, the 2 items Xueqi obtained had been sealed, which gave them the appearance of purplish gold crystal balls and made it impossible to discern their identity. In fact, the only information Xueqi got when he tried inspecting the items was their name, sealed crystal ball, and nothing else. Meanwhile, upon seeing the 2 unsealed items, Xueqi could not help but be stunned. Of the 2 items, one was a broken long sword, and the other was a gemstone that radiated 5 different colored glows. Evil God's Inheritance, One-Handed Sword. A treasured sword that the evil god once used. However, the sword was destroyed in a battle, shattered into 3 pieces. Although the evil god's treasured sword was destroyed, the power of the evil god contained inside it remains intact. As long as one gathers all 3 fragments, it is possible for the sword to regain its past glory. This piece is the broken hilt of the sword. By permanently sacrificing 10 points of all attributes, the user may execute 1 slash with the sword. Although this sword has been severely damaged, it can still exert 1/10 of its original power. When this fragment is within 1,000 yards of other fragments, the fragments will resonate with each other. Drops upon death. Cannot be traded. Limit Gemstone, Epic Consumable. Can be embedded into a weapon or equipment to permanently improve it. Can be used on only epic ranked items or below. Xueqi shuddered involuntarily as he looked at the descriptions of these two items, his eyes glowing with excitement. Although he had long since known that the loot of a Tier 4 NPC would be extraordinary and certainly superior to epic items, he had never imagined that Dairo would drop these two items. The Evil God's Inheritance was a weapon the Evil God had used frequently when it was still intact. In its complete form, it should be a legendary weapon at the very least. Although he had only a fragment of the weapon, it could lead to obtaining a real legendary weapon. Its value was definitely higher than that of a fragmented legendary weapon. After all, legendary items were exceedingly rare in God's domain, and every one of them had extraordinary origins. Not to mention, most of the clues players found that were related to legendary items were usually fake. Meanwhile, the most valuable aspect about the Evil God's Inheritance was the fact that it could be used. Even though it was capable of exerting only 10% of its original power, that was 10% of a legendary weapon's power. Not something a fragmented legendary weapon could hope to compare to. Only, the price to use the weapon was a little steep. Let alone other players, even Xueqi would feel a sting if he had to pay 10 points in all attributes just to swing the weapon once. As for the other item Dairo dropped, it was something Xueqi had only ever heard about before. During his previous life, the Limit Gemstone had appeared in an auction hosted by a super guild. However, the Limit Gemstone sold back then wasn't supplied by the hosting super guild. Instead, it was an item some other player had put up for trade. When this item appeared during the bartering session of the auction, it had immediately caused an uproar at the auction venue. After all, the best weapon and equipment that peak experts could get their hands on back then were only epic rank. Fragmented legendary items were still far out of their reach. Hence, to them, an item capable of improving epic weapons and equipment was far more valuable than even epic weapons. In the end, the Limit Gemstone had been traded for 1 epic weapon and 3 pieces of top-tier dark gold equipment of that time. Back then, nobody had a strong opinion on this price. It was neither too expensive nor too cheap. Only some time later did everyone find out that the buyer of the Limit Gemstone had ended up making a huge profit. The Limit Gemstone turned out to be even more amazing than everyone thought it to be. Just like its name implied, it improved a weapon or equipment to its maximum limit, not just slightly. From then onward, whenever a Limit Gemstone appeared, it would sell for astronomical prices, even as much as 3 epic items. Back then, however, Xueqi was only qualified to use the Limit Gemstone as a topic of conversation. Actually owning one had been far beyond him. He never dreamed that he would obtain one himself in this life. It can upgrade only weapons and equipment at the epic rank or below. As Xueqi looked at the resplendent gemstone in his hand, he could not help but think of the sacred sword Killing Ray. As one of the 36 famed swords of God's domain, Killing Ray was much stronger than any ordinary epic weapon. Moreover, it also had immense growth potential as it was one of the fragments of Solomon's sword, one of God's domain's 10 great legendary weapons. Since it was once part of a legendary weapon, the quality of the materials used to forge Killing Ray went without saying. One could say that it was the best item to improve with the Limit Gemstone. Immediately, Xueqi unsheathed Killing Ray and placed the Limit Gemstone on the flat of the sword. Following which, the sound of a system notification entered his ears. System. Do you wish to embed the Limit Gemstone in Killing Ray? Embed it. Xueqi agreed decisively. Suddenly, the 5-colored gemstone liquefied and spread itself across Killing Ray. A short moment later, the sacred sword was encased entirely in a layer of 5-colored liquid as if the long sword had just put on a 5-colored sheath. Following which, the glow from the 5-colored liquid intensified, so much so that Xueqi couldn't look at the sword directly. After several seconds the phenomenon subsided, and Killing Ray reverted to its original state. At this moment, however, several divine runes graced the sword's body, adding a hint of divinity to the sacred sword. As Xueqi wielded Killing Ray, he felt a pleasant feeling like never before. Right now, aside from his impression that the sacred sword was more powerful than before, Xueqi sensed that his compatibility with it had improved substantially. Now, Killing Ray felt more like an extension of his arm rather than a weapon. He could clearly perceive the layers of air the sacred sword was cutting through. In addition, golden arcs of electricity were sparking along the edges of the sword. Even after the sacred sword had moved away, arcs of electricity still lingered in the space it occupied before, vaporizing the air and anything else that came across them. Amazing. It is actually capable of causing continuous damage to places I've attacked before? Is this the true power of Killing Ray? Xueqi was astonished as he looked at Killing Ray. Epic weapons and equipment were extremely rare in God's domain. Those that had hidden effects were even rarer. These hidden effects went unstated in the attribute panel and did not appear to be salient. However, only players that had wielded these kinds of weapons and equipment before would realize how significant these hidden effects actually were toward improving one's combat power. In fact, they were much more important than the attributes listed in the attribute panel. Take Fire Dance's 1,000 transformations for example. The hidden effect the fragmented legendary weapon possessed was simply heaven-defying. No matter what kind of attacks Fire Dance faced, she could easily block it by executing a random swing with her short sword. It was as if the entire space around her was within the attack trajectory of her weapon. It was simply impossible to predict her trajectory with 1,000 transformations. Due to 1,000 transformations' hidden effect, even if Fire Dance's combat standards were lacking, she could still hold her ground against apex experts. Meanwhile, although Killing Ray's hidden effect was not a match for 1,000 transformations', it was still very frightening. Being able to cause damage to places he had attacked before would undoubtedly increase his DPS significantly. If utilized properly, he could even seal his opponent's movements, preventing all retaliation. Killing Ray's hidden effect would pose trouble even for Void Realm experts, not to mention other experts. After playing with Killing Ray's hidden effect for a while longer, Xueqi could no longer hold back, tapping open the Sacred Sword's attribute panel. He was very curious to find out just how much Killing Ray had improved. Chapter 1721. Upgraded Sacred Sword. After Xueqi opened Killing Ray's attribute panel and read it, he could not help but gasp. Killing Ray. Level 30. Level 120. Equipment requirement. Strength 1200. Agility 1000. Attributes adjust according to user's level. Attack power plus 2440. Level 65. Strength plus 173. Agility plus 165. Endurance plus 162. Attack speed plus 25. Ignore 30% of the target's defense. When equipped. Strength increased by 20%, agility increased by 15%, and attack speed increased by 10%. Ignore levels plus 20. All sword skills plus 3 levels. All item level requirements reduced by 5 levels. Attacks have a 40% chance to trigger the lightning effect, increasing initial attack speed to 50% of the maximum and damage by 260%. Additional skill 1 dash. Summon lightning. Summons lightning to deal 600% lightning damage to enemies within a range of 20 yards and inflict the numb effect for 5 seconds. Afterward, attack range increased by 20 yards for 30 seconds. Cooldown. 5 minutes. Additional skill 2 dash. Thunder God's Descent. Become immune to all control skills. Movement speed and attack speed increased by 150%, damage increased by 50%, and all damage received decreased by 60% for 30 seconds. Cooldown. 1 hour. Additional skill 3 dash. Lightning Slash. Imbue the power of lightning on the body of the sword, increasing strength by 330% and attack speed by 100% to execute a frontal attack that covers an area of 3 by 80 yards. Cooldown. 15 minutes. A sacred sword created by the godsmith Arnold using a piece of mysterious sword fragment. Killing Ray is one of the 36 famed swords of God's domain, ranking 20th. It was once a sword used by the Thunder Emperor Kaiser. Allows the wielder to have the speed of lightning. When fighting against dark creatures, damage increased by 100%. Can be evolved. Cannot be destroyed. For a moment, Xueqi even suspected that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Not only had Killing Ray's equipment requirement increased by a significant margin, but even its attack power had risen drastically. At level 65, its attack power already exceeded 2,400, close to rivaling the attack power of an epic two-handed weapon of the same level. Originally, Killing Ray was already a top-tier epic weapon. After being upgraded by the Limit Gemstone, its basic attributes had improved by 20%. Even the other effects were 5% better. The weapon skills had also been strengthened to a certain degree, and there was even the addition of a new skill, Lightning Slash. Although Lightning Slash did not deal a lot of damage, the increase in strength it provided was crucial to expert players because higher strength allowed players to suppress their opponent and create gaps to land a fatal blow. With my current attack power, I can most likely break through even a Tier 2 MT's defense. Xueqi was startled as he looked at his own statistics. In God's domain, even if players landed a direct hit on another player's body, their target's defense would weaken their attacks, preventing 100% damage dealing. To deal 100% damage with an attack, a player would have to overcome their opponent's defense limit, which was determined by a player's defense value and armor type. Even at the same defense value, different armor types would grant different defense limits. For example, at the same defense value, the defense limit of plate armor would greatly exceed that of cloth armor. However, once a player's strength and attack power reached a certain measure, they could break through even an MT's defense limit and deal 100% damage with their attacks. After achieving such a measure of strength and attack power, what kind of armor one's opponent wore would no longer matter. Just as Xueqi was getting a feel for Killing Ray's newfound power, the advanced horse carriage he was riding finally arrived at the entrance of the War God's Temple. Currently, the War God's Temple was as lively as ever. The number of players visiting the temple was not the slightest bit lower than that of the city's auction house and of the Adventurers Association. However, in Xueqi's opinion, the traffic at the War God's Temple was still relatively low. The War God's Temple was the protector of the entire continent of God's domain. As players reached higher levels, they would come across the dark forces, such as demons, evil demons, and abyssal creatures, more frequently. Moreover, after players got promoted to Tier 2, so long as their War God's Temple reputation points reached 300, they could receive special quests to deal with these dark forces. These quests generally awarded plenty of merit points, in addition to some special resources. Meanwhile, after players accumulated 500 reputation points with the temple, they could start accepting large-scale crusade quests, which required players to target the gathering points for the dark forces. In the past, this was the type of quest that the various large guilds enjoyed accepting the most because at least half of the town-building orders they obtained originated from these crusade quests. If a large guild wished to have a better time developing in neutral maps, they would shift their focus to the War God's Temple. Currently, most of the players visiting the War God's Temple were independent players. Only a small minority were guild players. In the future, however, the situation would be reversed with a large majority of the players visiting the War God's Temple being members of large guilds. As soon as Xueqi arrived at the main entrance of the War God's Temple, he attracted the attention of the nearby players. Crap! That's a 6-winged bronze-ranked guild emblem. That person must be a member of Zero Wing's main force. It would be great if I could get acquainted with such a big shot. That way, I'll have an easier time joining Zero Wing. Keep on dreaming. How could people like us possibly come into contact with a big shot from Zero Wing? He belongs to an entirely different world. Not to mention, everyone trying to join Zero Wing has to go through the same entrance test. I heard that even players personally introduced by Zero Wing's guild leader, Black Flame, have to pass the test to join the guild. The eyes of the players standing outside the War God's Temple's main entrance were filled with awe and envy as they looked at the guild emblem pinned on Xueqi's black cloak. From the recent battle at the primordial divine ruin, both the various large guilds and independent players could already tell that the odds of Zero Wing becoming a super first-rate guild in the future were excellent. Super first-rate guilds were powers that stood at the apex of God's domain. Even a first-rate guild backed by multiple major corporations would have to treat super first-rate guilds with great respect lest it provoke them. Meanwhile, who wouldn't want to join a guild with such great potential? In the virtual gaming world's past 100 years of history, players that belonged to first-rate guilds that eventually grew into super first-rate guilds had received great benefits. Particularly, expert players that originally belonged to the first-rate guild had been able to live the rest of their lives without worry. Those that had contributed greatly towards the guild's promotion into a super first-rate guild even lived an enviable and affluent life. Now that Zero Wing had displayed the potential to become a super first-rate guild, let alone Star Moon Kingdom's players, even players from other kingdoms and empires had come to Star Moon Kingdom to apply to Zero Wing. When Xueqi overheard the hushed conversations of the surrounding crowd, he simply chuckled as he continued into the War God's Temple. After entering the temple's lobby, He immediately went to the third-floor hall. Lord Protector, how may I be of service to you today? Senior Administrator Roland asked as he approached Xueqi. I have caught an evil god apostle and wish to hand him over to Vice Temple Lord Capra, Xueqi said. Another evil god apostle? Roland's eyes twitched slightly as he looked at Xueqi in surprise. Every evil god apostle was incomparably cunning and extremely difficult to catch. Since Xueqi had already caught an apostle before, logically, other evil god apostles should operate with even greater care, increasing the difficulty of capturing them. Yet, now, Xueqi had actually managed to capture another one shortly after he captured the last one. Lord Protector, please follow me. This time, Roland did not bother verifying the truth of Xueqi's words. Instead, he directly brought Xueqi to the fourth floor's triumphant hall. Afterward, Xueqi entered the same astrology room he had gone to during his last visit to the triumphant hall. Currently, Vice Temple Lord Capra was carrying out research through the gigantic magic water ball at the center of the room. Lord Capra, I caught another evil god apostle. Please verify it, Xueqi said as he took out the mobile jail detaining flame blood. Young adventurer, you truly are the nemesis of the evil god apostles, Capra said, laughing as he paused his work. With a light wave of his hand, Xueqi's mobile jail then suddenly appeared in his palm. After Capra received the mobile jail, Flame Blood's figure appeared before Capra. How is this possible? Flame Blood's complexion paled when he saw Capra and the nearby Xueqi. Beast Emperor actually failed. At this moment, he could easily guess what kind of place he was at. Only, he never thought that Xueqi would actually elude Beast Emperor's capture and successfully deliver him to the War God's temple. Black Flame. You cannot do this. If you hand me over to the War God's temple, Beast Emperor definitely won't let you get away. Flame Blood shouted as he glared at Xueqi. Right now, he was pinning all his hopes on Beast Emperor's deterrence. He knew that, unless Xueqi gave up on turning him in, he no longer had any hope of escaping from the War God's temple. You should give up now if you think Beast Emperor will save you. If you really wish to survive, tell me the location of Star Moon Kingdom's evil god's temple. Xueqi said, chuckling. He remained wholly unperturbed by Flame Blood's threat. Right now, the cleric was still ignorant of Beast Emperor's overwhelming defeat. Remember, you have only 5 seconds to consider. After saying so, Xueqi began counting down from 5. Meanwhile, an incomparably ugly expression appeared on Flame Blood's face, his heart filled with misgivings. Chapter 1722. Beast Emperor's Rage. Inside the silent astrology room, Flame Blood glared at Xueqi hatefully. He never thought that Xueqi would make him such an offer. The Evil God's Temple was the foundation that Evil God's Temple members like Beast Emperor and himself relied on to develop themselves. If the Evil God's Temple they belonged to got destroyed, then all the progress they had made thus far would disappear. Hence, Beast Emperor had repeatedly warned him that under no circumstances should he reveal information about Star Moon Kingdom's Evil God's Temple. Black Flame. I can tell you with confidence that the Evil God's Temple's strength is far beyond your imagination. As long as the Evil Beast army breaks through the Star Moon Kingdom's defensive line, at that time, not to mention Stone Forest Town, even Zero Wing will turn into nothing. If you let me go, Beast Emperor might give up on invading Star Moon Kingdom and target other kingdoms instead. If you hand me over to the War God's Temple now, you'll only anger Beast Emperor further and force him to spend all his Evil God's Temple contribution points to hasten the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom. Do you really wish to see your entire guild crumble together with me? Only if you let me go will Beast Emperor give up on invading Star Moon Kingdom. Otherwise, it is only a matter of time before the entire Star Moon Kingdom falls. Flame Blood repeatedly implored Xueqi to release him with indescribable anxiety on his face. Although Vice Temple Lord Capra was not a Tier 4 NPC, he was still a level 180, Tier 3 Great Mage, many times stronger than a level 80, Tier 4 NPC. Meanwhile, the intense pressure he gave off was enough to evoke deep despair in Flame Blood. At this moment, Flame Blood could only rely on the invasion of the Evil God's Temple to threaten Xueqi. NPCs led the invasion. The quantity and quality of evil beasts and evil demons participating in it were also far beyond what any single Evil God's Temple player could control. Current players simply had no chance of stopping the invasion. At this time, There were only two viable methods to do so. The first was to have Beast Emperor put a halt to the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom. The second was to destroy Star Moon Kingdom's Evil God's Temple. The location of the Evil God's Temple was of utmost importance to Evil God's Temple members. Before Flame Blood was officially made into an Evil God Apostle, Beast Emperor had made him sign a contract preventing him from revealing any details about the temple. If he violated the terms of the contract, he would suffer a fate even worse than getting sent to the War God's Temple. Meanwhile, if he refused to reveal the location of Star Moon Kingdom's Evil God's Temple, then he had only one other method to stop Xueqi from turning him into the War God's Temple, and that was to have Beast Emperor stop the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom. As the guild leader of Zero Wing, Xueqi should know which decision was better for his guild. Flame Blood refused to believe that Xueqi would abandon the entire Zero Wing just to get rid of him. "Are these your last words?" Xueqi chuckled as he looked at the desperation on Flame Blood's face. "You should think things through clearly. As long as you are killed by the War God's Temple, all the progress you've made in this account will be lost. You'll also be able to start a new account only 1 month later. At that time, who knows how much time and effort you'll have to put in to return to the front lines. You'll miss out on plenty of opportunities." Currently, the elite members of the various large guilds were close to reaching level 50. In another month, many elite players would most likely have completed their Tier 2 promotion already, not to mention expert players. If Flame Blood had to restart from scratch, he would also miss out on the various resources and opportunities that could be obtained from exploring new maps. Unless the guild Flame Blood belonged to was willing to invest plenty of resources into him, or the cleric had heaven-defying luck, he would have extreme difficulty getting the current advantages he possessed in the future. As Xueqi said so, Capra began chanting an incantation. Meanwhile, based on Xueqi's words, Flame Blood could tell that Xueqi was determined to turn him into the War God's Temple. "Crazy bastard. You really are insane." At this moment, Flame Blood could feel his mind breaking down. He even doubted Xueqi realized just how terrifying the Evil God's Temple's invasion was. He had never thought that Xueqi would actually go as far as to sacrifice Zero Wing just to take his life. Before Flame Blood could finish speaking, dozens of golden magic arrays appeared around him. A golden chain then shot out from each of the magic arrays. The chains pierced Flame Blood's body and bound his soul directly. Following which, Flame Blood's body began burning, his body transforming into a pile of ashes after just 2 seconds. The cleric's immortal soul was destroyed as well and completely disappeared from God's domain. Sure enough, he refused to speak. Xueqi could not help but sigh as he watched Flame Blood disappearing. He did not believe that Flame Blood refused to reveal the Evil God's Temple's location out of loyalty. There was an 80% chance that Beast Emperor had anticipated such a situation and made preparations. However, this outcome was within Xueqi's expectations. The Evil God's Temple was the foundation of Evil God's Temple members. Without the Evil God's Temple, Beast Emperor would lose the authority he had in Star Moon Kingdom. He naturally wouldn't let his minions reveal the location of the Evil God's Temple so easily. System. Congratulations! You have captured an Evil God Apostle. Rewarding 12,000 War God's Temple merit points, reputation with the War God's Temple increased by 200 points, 200 million EXP, 20 free mastery points, and 2 legacy skill points. 12,000 merit points? Xueqi was a little surprised when he read the system notification. He was only awarded 10,000 merit points the first time he captured an Evil God Apostle. He actually received 2,000 more points than the previous time. However, he had quickly discovered that, while the merit points he obtained had increased, the free mastery points and legacy skill points awarded had decreased by a significant margin. Previously, he had gotten 50 free mastery points and 5 legacy skill points. Now, he had received only 40% of the previous amounts. Compared to obtaining an additional 2,000 merit points, he would rather have the 30 free mastery points and 3 legacy skill points. Meanwhile, after Flame Blood's permanent disappearance from God's domain, Beast Emperor, who was currently controlling his evil demon army from the Evil God's Branch Temple at Ancient Rock City, received a system notification informing him about it. Black Flame. Beast Emperor bellowed, his expression twisting. Since you dare destroy my path to promotion, I'll have your Zero Wing go down with me as well. He was granted only 5 Evil God Apostle slots. Now that he had permanently lost 2 of them, he would have a much more difficult time developing himself further. At this moment, the man standing beside Beast Emperor spoke up. "Boss, Black Flame is simply too arrogant. Why don't I mobilize my evil beast and evil demon armies in the Purple Thorns Kingdom and have them destroy Zero Wings Town at the primordial divine ruin? That'll teach Black Flame a good lesson." This man had a tough appearance and was clad in silver scale armor. Unlike other evil god apostles, this man did not wrap himself in bandages. Instead, like Beast Emperor, he did nothing to hide his skin tone. Meanwhile, if one were to use an advanced identification skill on this man, one would discover that not only was he a level 52 berserker, but he was even in possession of the Tier 2 hidden class Savage Warrior. No. That town is still in its protection period right now. Although the NPC guards there aren't as high-leveled as the NPC guards available inside a kingdom, they are still level 100 NPCs. There are also 20 Tier 3 NPCs. Even 10 level 80 Mythic ranked evil beasts wouldn't be enough to break the town, Beast Emperor said, shaking his head. What we need to do for now is wait. Based on the information Blackwater sent me, the town's protection period is only 3 days. During these 3 days, properly prepare yourself, Wind. Once the town's protection period is over, we'll attack. Boss, rest assured. I guarantee that Zero Wings Town will be flattened as soon as its protection period is over. The silver-armored man named Wind Hunter said with a confident smile on his face. Beast Emperor nodded in response to Wind Hunter's words. He had a lot of confidence in the man before him. Wind Hunter was not only his closest confidant but also the first person he had turned into an evil god apostle. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Star Moon Kingdom wasn't Beast Emperor's main headquarters, which was actually the Purple Thorns Kingdom. Wind Hunter had been operating in the Purple Thorns Kingdom for a very long time already, building up a foundation for himself that simply wasn't something newly minted evil god apostles like Abandoned Wave and Flameblood could hope to compare to. Meanwhile, back inside the astrology room in the War God's Temple, Xueqi had realigned his thoughts. Although he had failed to obtain the location of Star Moon Kingdom's evil god's temple, he still managed to garner some information regarding the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom, which was the fact that Beast Emperor first needed to have enough evil god's temple contribution points to advance the invasion. Without sufficient contribution points, the invasion would have no way of breaking through the kingdom's defensive line. To Xueqi, this was undoubtedly good news. At the very least, he would not have to worry about the invasion progressing into the kingdom anytime soon. After all, Beast Emperor should have spent a lot of his contribution points on the previous battle at the primordial divine ruin. Xueqi refused to believe that Beast Emperor had managed to get a Tier 4 NPC to take action for free. With this knowledge in mind, what he needed to do now was strengthen himself as quickly as possible and find the location of the evil god's temple. Following which, Xueqi approached Capra and asked, "Lord Capra, I have an evil god's eye here. May I know if the War God's Temple is able to repair it for me?" Chapter 1723. Complete Evil God's Eyes. An evil god's eye? A hint of shock flashed across Capra's wizened face as he stared at Xueqi. Clearly excited, he asked, "Did you really obtain an evil god's eye?" Seeing the excitement and passion on Capra's face, Xueqi retrieved dark gray, runic crystal ball from his bag. As the crystal ball appeared in the room, it began to leak small traces of evil energy. This crystal ball was none other than the evil god's eye that he had obtained after destroying the evil god's sealing magic array. The moment Xueqi revealed the evil god's eye, Capra's gaze sharpened as he examined the crystal ball. If Xueqi hadn't known that good-aligned NPCs wouldn't steal from players, he wouldn't have doubted that Capra would have snatched the evil god's eye from him without hesitation. "It's actually real." Capra became even more excited after a detailed inspection of the item. He then shifted his gaze back to Xueqi and said, "Although this evil god's eye has been damaged, it is still very valuable. It's also the material I've been searching for. If you are willing to sell this evil god's eye to me, I will offer you this elemental crown and 5,000 merit points." Capra grinned as he retrieved a crown studded with 7 resplendent gemstones. Xueqi could feel the mana around him grow restless the moment the crown appeared in the room. A fragmented legendary item? Xueqi could not help but gasp when he saw the elemental crown. He had never thought that Capra would be so generous. If he obtained the elemental crown now, he could instantly transform one of Zero Wings members into a peak expert. Moreover, Capra had also offered an additional 5,000 merit points. That was nearly the price of an epic item. Of course, you can choose to repair the evil god's eye. However, doing so will be incredibly expensive. In addition to 15,000 merit points, you'll need 100 mana stones and 3 units of 7 luminaries crystal. Xueqi was inwardly astonished. He hadn't expected the repair costs for this item to be so exorbitant. Generally, players could only obtain mana stones from raiding team dungeons, but even 100-man Hell Mode team dungeons had very low drop rates. As for the 7 luminaries crystals, it was likely that not a single guild had even 1 unit at this stage of the game. You can take your time to consider your options. There is no need to make a decision now, Capra said, chuckling. Lord Capra, I've already decided. I want to repair the evil god's eye, Xueqi said, determined. His desire for fragmented legendary items was intense right now, especially for fragmented legendary items that were suited for magical classes. If he gave the elemental crown to one of Zero Wing's magical class experts, that expert's firepower would rise to a whole new level. However, the evil god's eye would help the guild as a whole far more than the elemental crown. Although miniature worlds only produced a small number of resources, the power ore they produced was incomparably valuable. Normally, the power ore could only be acquired from unstable otherworlds. Moreover, the miniature world was far rarer and more valuable than a fragmented legendary item. Many first-rate guilds in the past had even been willing to trade over a dozen fragmented legendary items for a single miniature world. Hence, the wisest decision for Xueqi was to repair the evil god's eye. How unfortunate! Capra sighed before regaining his usual calm. He then looked at Xueqi and said, "Hand over the materials then. If you don't have them ready, you can go collect them. You can find me again once you have the required materials." Xueqi nodded in response. He then left the war god's temple and rushed to the candlelight trading firm. Others might struggle to gather 100 mana stones and 3 units of 7 luminaries crystal, but the task wasn't difficult for Xueqi in the least. With the Philosopher's Stone, he could synthesize the 2 items from magic crystals and 7 luminary shards. Following which, Xueqi transformed 5,000 magic crystals and 100 plus 7 luminary shards, which had been left over from the 4 Towers of Elements construction, into 100 mana stones and 2 7 luminaries crystals. He then hurried back to meet with Capra. When Capra saw that Xueqi had the required materials, he gave the swordsman a serious look before asking, "Do you really wish to repair the evil god's eye?" System. Repairing the evil god's eye will cost 15,000 merit points. As you have 3,700 War God's Temple reputation points, you can pay 20% of the merit points with coins. Do you wish to pay with coins? System. Based on the system's analysis of the current market, each merit point is worth 2 gold, 10 silver. Do you wish to proceed? Yes. Xueqi answered without hesitation. He currently had over 12,000 merit points. If he paid 3,000 merit points with coins, he would have just enough merit points to repair the evil god's eye. Instantly, 6,300 gold vanished from Xueqi's bag. After Capra received the materials, he began to chant an incantation and write line after line of divine runes. The ambient mana and Capra's runes then gradually flowed into the evil god's eye, which hovered before the Vice Temple Lord. As this process continued, Xueqi could see the runes on the surface of the evil god's eye sharpen. The density of the evil energy the dark gray crystal ball radiated also increased. When every mana stone and 7 luminaries crystal had merged with the evil god's eye, the runes on the orb released a dazzling gray glow. As he watched the dark gray crystal ball, Xueqi could feel a dangerously malicious intent radiating from it. At this point, the evil god's eye stopped leaking evil energy. Now, it merely looked like a crystal decorated with mysterious runes. All right, I've repaired the evil god's eye. Hopefully you can utilize it properly. Make sure that you don't let those from the evil god's temple find out that you have it. Otherwise, they'll use everything in their power to destroy you, Capra warned as he reluctantly handed the evil god's eye back to Xueqi. When Xueqi received the evil god's eye, he felt an immense weight in his hands. Rather than an ordinary crystal, he felt as if he had just received a miniature mountain. If he weren't a Tier 2 player with over 1,500 points in his strength, he might not even be able to carry the fist-sized crystal ball. It's so heavy. So, This is the intact Evil God's Eye? As he held the Evil God's Eye, Xueqi inspected the item's attribute panel. Evil God's Eye, fragmented legendary rank item. This item had been created by the Evil God for the specific purpose of opening a path through the world's barrier. The Evil God's Eye contains a sealed miniature world, and can be used as a conduit to transfer the miniature world's power to the outside world. The Evil God's Eye also grants its holder sovereignty over the miniature world within. Additional skill 1 - World's Power. Can be used as a magic array's power source, improving the magic array's effects by a maximum of 120%. Cooldown 48 hours. Additional skill 2 - Teleportation Pathway. Opens a pathway to the sealed miniature world. The pathway lasts for 10 minutes. Cooldown 96 hours. Amazing. Xueqi was utterly dumbfounded after inspecting the intact Evil God's Eye. He finally understood why the various superpowers in the past had valued miniature worlds to such an extreme. As Xueqi quietly admired the Evil God's Eye, Aqua Rose contacted him. Guild Leader, Melancholic Smile has gathered the materials you require. I have also gathered the architects you've requested in Zero Wing City, Aqua Rose reported. All right, I'll head over right away. Xueqi could not help but smile when he heard Aqua Rose's words. With this, Zero Wing would soon have a second stone forest town. Only this time, it was in a neutral map. Chapter 1724. Power of the Sacred Sword. Chapter 1724. Power of the Sacred Sword. After Xueqi disconnected the call, he left the War God's Temple and used a guild transfer scroll to teleport to Zero Wing City. He then used the 4 Towers of Elements teleportation function to travel to the Orc Empire, making his way towards the primordial divine ruin. There are still evil demons here? Currently, Xueqi wore his black cloak, keeping his identity hidden. As he approached the wilderness near the primordial divine ruin, he frowned at what he saw. He spotted level 70+ evil demons and evil beasts wandering on the grassy plain before him. There were easily over 5,000 monsters, which were even stronger than Beast Emperor's evil beasts and evil demons that Zero Wing had recently fought. Zero Wing's new town had recently been constructed, so he had yet to set up a guild residence teleportation magic array in the town's residence. Hence, he had rushed towards the primordial divine ruin to complete the town's handover procedures and set up the teleportation array. Fellow friend, I take it that you haven't visited the Orc Empire recently, huh? A level 49 male ranger in dark blue leather armor, who had been passing by, approached Xueqi and asked when he noticed the swordsman's frown. The youth then smiled and continued. Zero Wing fought a massive battle against Beast Emperor's evil beast and evil demon armies just some time ago. Although Beast Emperor was defeated and eventually forced to retreat, he didn't give up on his mission to keep Zero Wing from visiting the ruin. On the contrary, he sent a massive group of stronger evil beasts and evil demons from ancient Rock City to surround the primordial divine ruin. Now, the only way to get to the ruin is to go through the checkpoint ahead. Checkpoint? Xueqi asked curiously. That's right. It seems Beast Emperor wants to prevent Zero Wing's members from sneaking into the ruin by hiding their identities. Unless players enter via the checkpoint, the evil beasts and demons will attack them, the ranger youth said, nodding. I'd advise against trying to barge through just to save time. Those evil beasts and evil demons are extremely powerful. Some players, who had been displeased with the new setup, tried to head to the ruin without passing through the checkpoint. In the end, the 100-man team was quickly destroyed. To be honest, there's no need to be in such a hurry anyway. Look, the checkpoint's queue is moving relatively quickly. After all, it's just there to determine whether or not players are from Zero Wing. It took us quite a bit of time and effort to get this far. A few more minutes won't really make a huge difference. They're checking for Zero Wing members? Xueqi muttered as he looked towards where the ranger youth had pointed. That's right. I don't know what Zero Wing did, but it seems that the guild really infuriated Beast Emperor. He's already announced that he intends to fight Zero Wing to the bitter end, the ranger youth said, nodding. So, he made this checkpoint for that purpose. Not only has Beast Emperor stationed his subordinates at the checkpoint, but there are also plenty of powerful evil demons there. I see, Xueqi muttered. He then walked straight towards Beast Emperor's checkpoint. At the end of the day, evil demons were monsters. As long as players wore a black cloak, evil demons couldn't determine their identities. However, players could. As long as Beast Emperor subordinates forced passing players to remove their black cloaks, they could determine the players' identities. Although Zero Wings members could avoid discovery by hiding their guild emblems, doing so would seem like the guild's players were afraid of Beast Emperor. Fellow friend, where are you going? That's not where the end of the line starts. The ranger youth called out as he watched Xueqi walk straight towards the checkpoint. If you don't follow the rules and try to skip the queue, they'll definitely kill you. It's fine. I'm the Zero Wing member they're looking for, Xueqi casually replied as he waved a hand. As Xueqi finished his statement, he accelerated and vanished. The Zero Wing member. Xueqi's reply dumbfounded both the ranger youth and his companions. What was going on? One of Zero Wing's members actually dared to rush towards Beast Emperor's checkpoint. Moreover, that member approached the checkpoint by himself. Didn't the swordsman realize that hundreds of evil demons guarded the checkpoint? Beast Emperor had even stationed a mythic-ranked evil demon there. Such a force would even annihilate a 100-man expert team in the blink of an eye. When the ranger youth and his companions finally recovered from their daze, they chased after Xueqi to stop his insane actions. They were all independent players, and in a fight between Beast Emperor and Zero Wing, they were strong supporters of the guild. Not only was Beast Emperor's attitude overbearing, but he was also an evil god's temple member who saw players as potential sacrifices. On the surface, they lacked the courage to condemn Beast Emperor's actions, but inwardly, they hated him to the bone. However, the ranger youth and his companions were simply too slow to catch up to Xueqi. After a few seconds of running, Xueqi had already reached the checkpoint and had been discovered by Beast Emperor's subordinates. Who are you? Don't you realize that this is a checkpoint? Everyone must queue up and remove their black cloaks to pass through. A level 50 shield warrior in silvery gray armor shouted at Xueqi. Although Zero Wing had defeated Beast Emperor's army once before, the Orc Empire was still the evil god's temple's territory. As Beast Emperor's subordinates, even Super Guild's members had to treat them with respect. Even a peak expert would have to lower their head in the Orc Empire. Me. Smiling leisurely, Xueqi responded, I'm one of the people you are looking for. Saying so, Xueqi took a step forward. With his extraordinary attributes, the swordsman arrived before the level 50 shield warrior in an instant. He then unsheathed Killing Ray and swung it. Hua! A blue flash bloomed before the shield warrior. The level 50 shield warrior immediately collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Even after dying, he hadn't reacted to what had just happened. When the shield warrior's corpse hit the ground, a level 45 fine gold ranked armor piece dropped beside him. He died. Who is that? He's so powerful. Has that swordsman lost his mind? I think I heard that guy mention that he's a member of Zero Wing. The thousands of players in the queue were dumbfounded by what had just happened. They couldn't believe their eyes. Whether or not Xueqi had told the truth about being from Zero Wing, the fact that he had killed a level 50 shield warrior with a single slash was incredibly shocking. A level 50 shield warrior, even at tier 1, would have close to 50,000 HP. Shield warriors also had far more defense than other classes. They had passive skills that reduced incoming damage, as well. Even a great lord of the same level couldn't instant kill such a shield warrior, yet Xueqi had accomplished exactly that. Beast Emperor's 13 other subordinates a short distance away were similarly stupefied. They had never expected someone to be foolish enough to attack the checkpoint alone. Hundreds of evil demons surrounded the checkpoint, including a level 80 mythic evil demon. Even peak experts would be utterly powerless against a mythic evil demon. At the very minimum, players would need a team of 1,000 experts to pin one down. Bastard! Beast Emperor's subordinates bellowed in rage when they noticed that Xueqi had actually picked up their companion's equipment and stored it. They immediately unsheathed their weapons and charged at the offending swordsman. In their opinion, Xueqi must have used some sort of skill to instant kill their shield warrior companion, and such powerful skills had very long cooldowns. Xueqi should not be able to use it again for the next several minutes. Every one of the dozen or so subordinates at the checkpoint was a level 50 expert. Moreover, the dead shield warrior only ranked among the lower half of their group in terms of strength and equipment. Even if they weren't a match for Xueqi, they could still involve the nearby evil demons. However, when only 15 yards separated Xueqi and the 5 melee experts, who led the charge, Xueqi abruptly disappeared. By the time the 5 melee experts realized Xueqi was gone, he reappeared right in front of them. No! Finding Xueqi before them so suddenly, the 5 melee experts panicked, trying to focus on full defense. But Zero Wing's top swordsman didn't give them the opportunity to defend themselves as he brandished Killing Ray. Shadow Blade. Suddenly, 10 sword lights, 1 blue and 9 black, sliced at the 5 melee experts before they could react. The experts' HP plummeted rapidly, reaching 0 in a fraction of a second. All 5 melee experts then hit the ground simultaneously. Wait! That's Shadow Blade. He's Black Flame, Zero Wing's guild leader. Chapter 1725. Fighting a Mythic with Brute Force. Chapter 1725. Fighting a Mythic with Brute Force. Shadow Blade. Is he really the Sword King? Surprise overcame the thousands of players in line for Beast Emperor's checkpoint when they saw the 10 sword lights and the 5 melee players. Everyone here knew of Black Flame, especially after Zero Wing's battle with Heaven's Burial at Stone Forest Town. The man was even capable of taking on war weapons. During the battle with Blackwater at the Primordial Divine Ruin, Black Flame had even slain Singular Burial, Heaven's Burial's original guild leader, with one attack. Black Flame's shocking battle records had become a hot topic for players in the various kingdoms and empires neighboring the Orc Empire long ago. Due to Black Flame's popularity, many players had attempted to analyze why he was so powerful. These players had even publicly exposed some of Black Flame's skills. Among Black Flame's various skills, Shadow Blade was considered one of the man's trademark moves because it wasn't a skill of a Tier 2 swordmaster. Based on everyone's deduction, it was most likely a unique skill of a hidden class. Xueqi's summoning of 9 additional attacks with a single swing of his sword was likely a result of his Shadow Blade skill. Including the fact that Xueqi had declared himself as a member of Zero Wing, there was a very high possibility that Xueqi was Black Flame. As they realized this, everyone watching got goosebumps. Black Flame had defeated Beast Emperor's army once before, and his control of summoned creatures had been astounding. He was definitely one of God's domain's mythical characters. They never expected to have a chance to meet or interact with this swordsman. Now, not only did they get to see Black Flame in person, but they also got to watch him attack Beast Emperor's checkpoint. They were going to watch a historic moment happen right before their very eyes. Why wouldn't they be excited? Black Flame? What? Why are we so unlucky? Beast Emperor's subordinates, who had planned to charge at Xueqi, slid to a stop as they stared at their adversary. All of their prior confidence and rage disappeared. Now, only fear flashed in their eyes. Although they were expert players and wore excellent equipment, they did not think, even for a second, that they could contend with Xueqi. Moreover, they had all watched this man's battle videos. He could even slay Tier 2 experts as easily as slicing vegetables, let alone Tier 1 players like themselves. They could only hope to buy as much time as possible for the evil demons to arrive and deal with Xueqi. There were hundreds of evil demons nearby, the weakest of which was a level 70 lord, while the strongest was a level 80 mythic-ranked evil demon. Even if Xueqi were more powerful, there was no way he could solo a level 80 mythic evil demon. Not gonna attack? Xueqi smiled as he swept a glance across Beast Emperor's remaining 8 subordinates. Then I guess it's my turn. Saying so, Xueqi vanished, only leaving behind an afterimage. In the blink of an eye, Xueqi reappeared roughly 10 yards away from a level 50 summoner. Before this summoner could cast a spell, a blue flash devoured him. Chop! The summoner's HP, which had been over 34,000, hit 0 instantly. The summoner's vision then darkened as his body collapsed, a pair of level 45 dark gold ranked gloves dropping beside his corpse. After Xueqi unhurriedly pocketed the pair of gloves, he made his way to the level 50 ranger nearby. Although the level 50 ranger had reacted by activating his backward leap skill, Xueqi had swung Killing Ray before the skill could take effect. Thundering Flash. One of the 4 streaks of lightning that emerged from the sacred sword devoured the ranger, who turned into a pile of ash and left behind a pair of pants. The other 3 streaks of lightning assaulted 3 other subordinates. Aside from the one elementalist that activated his life-saving skill in time, the lightning tore the life from the cleric and oracle, robbing them of all of their HPs. As if space itself had frozen, silence dominated Xueqi's surroundings. Crap. Is he even a human? Aren't Thundering Flash's 4 strikes supposed to move in the same direction? Is this a joke? Thundering Flash can actually be used like this. As the thousands of players at the checkpoint watched the fight, their jaws hit the ground as Xueqi slew 3 of Beast Emperor's subordinates, who had been fairly spread out, with Thundering Flash. Although Thundering Flash was a rare skill, some players had managed to learn it. It was undoubtedly one of the strongest AoE skills for swordsmen during the early stages of the game, so quite a few players were familiar with the skill's details. Yet, Xueqi had justified the skill's limitations, using it as 4 separate skills instead of 1. Moreover, all of his attacks had accurately struck his targets. This was simply unbelievable. What these players didn't know was that Xueqi had long since mastered his control over his skills. Since he had reached the Void Realm, he had a perfect grasp of his enemy's movements. Then, he used his arm and wrist to alter the lightning strike's trajectory as they left the tip of his sword. Normally, it should be impossible to alter the lightning strike's direction as the intervals between each strike's launch were extremely short, but by using his understanding of the realms of truth, he could make the impossible possible. Of course, the biggest reason he was able to pull off such a feat had to be Killing Ray's frightening attack speed. Otherwise, the most he'd be able to do was manipulate the trajectory of 3 of the 4 lightning strikes. Although he might be able to alter the last strike's trajectory, it wouldn't be very accurate. Some of the refinement realm experts present were utterly captivated by Xueqi's technique. They realized what Xueqi had just accomplished, albeit barely. However, although they knew the principle behind the technique Xueqi had used, they also understood how nearly impossible the technique was to execute. After watching Xueqi execute 4 more of their companions with so little effort, Beast Emperor's remaining 4 subordinates were utterly terror-stricken as they stared at this swordsman. Although they had already known Xueqi was powerful, they hadn't thought that he was this powerful. Xueqi's strength was beyond their comprehension. This swordsman from Zero Wing could slaughter them without trouble even if he had the same basic attributes as they did. As the 4 were about to fall to their despair, however, the evil demons finally arrived. Seeing that their demonic reinforcements were only 40 yards away, the 4 survivors breathed a deep sigh of relief. A little confidence turned to their gazes as they looked back at Xueqi. They had reacted in such a way because, among the evil demons rushing to their aid, one was a level 80 mythic evil demon. Black Flame, let's see how arrogant you'll be now. The elementalist, who had sealed himself in a coffin of ice, revealed a gleeful expression. Suddenly, the 5-meter-tall mythic evil demon pounced at Xueqi and swung its right claw, which was shrouded in dark gray fog, at Xueqi's head, tearing space as the claw passed. A mythic evil demon. Glancing at the approaching mythic evil demon, Xueqi activated Heavenly Dragon's power, his strength, agility, defense, and HP skyrocketing. Xueqi then countered the incoming claw with a slash from Killing Ray. Lightning Slash. Killing Ray released a golden glow as it moved towards the evil demon's claw. The sacred sword sliced the space before it like a piece of paper, a pitch-black tear appearing before Xueqi. As this tear continued to extend away from its creator before a massive lightning bolt shot through it. In an instant, this lightning bolt stretched 80 yards away from Xueqi. Before anyone had realized it, Killing Ray had met the mythic evil demon's claw. Boom! Following the sound of an explosion, an intense shockwave shook its surroundings as it spread out from its epicenter. Even the players standing over 100 yards away felt the shockwave's severity. To everyone's surprise, the mythic-ranked evil demon actually took 3 steps back. Its right claw sported a deep cut, so deep that the evil demon's bone was exposed. Chapter 1726. World's Power. He pushed the evil demon back. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? No, that mythic evil demon actually slid backward. Everyone's heart pounded madly when they saw the mythic evil demon retreat by 3 steps. Without the help of war weapons, a Tier 4 Mythic Evil Demon was unshakable to current players, yet without any help, Xueqi had forced the monster to step back. The watching players felt as if they had just watched an ant push back a ferocious lion. No matter how they looked at the situation, it had to be some kind of joke. Most importantly, Xueqi had actually injured the evil demon physically. Although he had only left a cut behind on the evil demon's claw and arm, it was astounding. It wasn't even possible to injure a mythic-ranked monster with a Tier 3 large-scale destruction spell, but Xueqi had done so by relying on his own strength. Even Beast Emperor's subordinates gaped in shock at the wound Xueqi had left on the mythic evil demon's claw, not to mention the thousands of spectators. The cut was so deep that it revealed bone. Moreover, faint, arcs of golden electricity danced around the wound, causing further damage. The evil demon couldn't even move the claw since it had been subjected to a paralyzed state. Seeing this, the shreds of joy and confidence that had returned to Beast Emperor's reaming subordinates instantly vanished. A chilling sensation then assaulted their minds, making them shudder. When they looked at Xueqi now, they felt as if they were staring down a primordial beast, not some player. Xueqi's aura also felt more oppressive than it had before, stifling their breathing as they bathed in it. They no longer felt as if their lives rested in their own hands, but in Xueqi's instead. If Xueqi wished it, he could crush them with a thought. However, a mythic evil demon was still a mythic evil demon at the end of the day, and although one of its claws was temporarily paralyzed, its other claw didn't remain idle. The mythic evil demon immediately launched another attack with its uninjured claw. This time, however, Xueqi did not try to stop the attack. Instead, he activated the disintegration armor's disintegration field. Suddenly, a bluish-gray ripple tore away from Xueqi, enveloping the mythic evil demon and Beast Emperor's 4 remaining subordinates, and as it did, the 4 players and evil demon felt an immense pressure descend on them. Beast Emperor's 4 subordinates watched their basic attributes decrease by 40%, while the mythic evil demon's basic attributes fell by 15%. Following which, Xueqi executed Purgatory Pentaslash. One sword light after another flew at the mythic evil demon's claw. A few of the sword lights even merged right before reaching the claw. Boom! Although the mythic evil demon did not retreat in the slightest this time, its assault had halted. Sure enough, a mythic monster really is powerful. Despite being weakened, I still can't solo it yet. Xueqi sighed ruefully as he looked at the mythic evil demon before him. He had only overwhelmed the evil demon previously due to Lightning Slash's 330% strength increase, but even after merging some of his attacks, his strength was barely a match for the weakened evil demon. After this, aside from activating Twofold Berserk, he had no means of taking the mythic evil demon head-on. Obviously, Twofold Berserk wasn't viable for this situation. Twofold Berserk only had a 20-second duration, but even after being weakened, the mythic evil demon still had a maximum HP of 127,500,000. He'd be lucky to shave off 2% of the evil demon's HP in 20 seconds. Following which, Xueqi used Divine Steps, and 10 doppelgangers split away from his body. Now, rather than dance with the mythic evil demon, he avoided it. While doing so, Xueqi took a Tier 4 single-target attack magic scroll from his bag. It was one of the scrolls he had obtained after killing a mythic evil beast. Dark Destruction. After activating the scroll, Xueqi immediately used World's Power on the magic array within it. Suddenly, pitch-black magic arrays started to manifest, and in an instant, 33 arrays had the evil demon completely surrounded. Before the mythic evil demon could flee, the arrays began to fire darkness spears, piercing the evil demon's body. The 33 magic arrays quickly transformed the mythic evil demon into a porcupine. The mythic-ranked evil demon's agonized screams were all anyone could hear. After another 2 seconds, every darkness spear in the evil demon's body exploded, instantly stealing over 8 million of the evil demon's HP. After the massive explosion, the mythic evil demon was in an incomparably miserable state. It was covered in wounds, steadily seeping fresh blood. Even a fool could see that the mythic evil demon suffered a heavily injured state. What destructive power! He actually injured a mythic-ranked evil demon so severely. Did he use a magic scroll containing a Tier 4 curse or Tier 5 spell? The spectating crowd could not help but gasp when they saw the injured evil demon. If they couldn't see that the mythic evil demon still had plenty of HP, they'd assume that it was on its last breath, about to keel over at any moment. Even Xueqi was surprised. He hadn't expected the Tier 4 magic scroll to become so destructive after empowering it with World's power. The power of dark destruction was stronger than even a Tier 4 single-target curse. Seeing that the mythic evil demon was heavily injured, Xueqi immediately removed Disintegration Field and summoned his personal guards, Anna and Kite. At this point, Anna had reached level 81, whereas Kite was level 79. The two NPCs' leveling speed was simply staggering. Once the mythic evil demon had become heavily injured, its basic attributes had fallen by 35%. Now, in terms of overall combat power, it was only slightly stronger than a level 80 Grand Lord. Meanwhile, after being summoned, Anna proceeded to summon her Golden Giant and 10 Rock Guardians. She then had the Rock Guardians form a magic array to suppress the mythic evil demon further. With this, the mythic evil demon only had 50% of its original basic attributes remaining. Now, even the Golden Giant could put up a fight against the mythic-ranked evil demon, not to mention Xueqi. With the Golden Giant serving as his MT, Xueqi focused on dealing damage. Phantom Kill. Flame Burst. Damages in the hundreds of thousands appeared, one after another, above the mythic evil demon's head. To the mythic evil demon, who only had a maximum HP of 75 million after being weakened, this was a considerable amount. Furthermore, Kite and Anna's damage kept up with Xueqi's. Although Lord and Great Lord ranked evil demons tried to intervene, the Rock Guardian's magic array kept them out of the fight. They could not hinder Xueqi and his minions in the slightest. Meanwhile, Beast Emperor's 4 remaining subordinates could only watch as their supposed savior rapidly lost HP. 80%, 60%, 20%. When the mythic evil demon's HP fell to 20% and was about to enter a berserk state, Anna reacted by casting Chains of Light. Not only did the spell negate the evil demon's berserk state, but it also weakened the monster even further. Without the boost from its berserk state, the mythic evil demon couldn't free itself from this one-sided beating, and its HP continued to fall. 20%, 10%, 5%. When the mythic evil demon only had 1% of its HP remaining, Xueqi activated Divine Providence. He then activated Instant Strike and appeared before the evil demon. Sword's Orbit. Suddenly, a series of blue stars bombarded the mythic evil demon, plundering its final strand of HP. As the mythic-ranked evil demon died, a golden flash enveloped Xueqi. He had finally risen from level 65 to level 66. At the same time, 3 crimson balls of light emerged from the evil demon's corpse and hit the ground. When the watching crowd outside of the magic array saw the mythic evil demon's motionless corpse, their minds went blank. Chapter 1727. Blockade Destroyed. After seeing the mythic evil demon fall, Beast Emperor's 4 remaining subordinates were overwhelmed by their fear and despair. Although they had expected this outcome after watching Xueqi and his personal guards suppress the mythic evil demon, they couldn't help but shudder after watching the monster actually collapse at the swordsman's feet. To God's domain's current major powers, Tier 4 monsters were still insurmountable. Even super guilds had to expend a lot of time and effort to prepare and ensure that they killed one. Yet, Xueqi had accomplished this feat by relying on his own power and his 2 personal guards. Normally, if someone told them about such a situation, they'd laugh, assuming that the player was joking, but after such an impossible feat had occurred before their very eyes, they had no choice but to believe it. Regret filled their hearts. Had they known that something like this would happen, they would never have volunteered to work at the checkpoint. They had assumed that inspecting players that entered the primordial divine ruin would be a relaxing, glorious task. After all, even players from the various superpowers would have to lower their heads before them. How often did anyone get to brag about that? Now, however, the only thing awaiting them was death. Before the 4 could even turn and flee, Kite had appeared and finished each of them with a single hit. In the meantime, Xueqi had arrived beside the mythic evil demon's corpse and collected the 3 items it had dropped. He then commanded Anna and Kite to kill the other evil demons outside of the magic array. Without the threat of the mythic evil demon, the level 70+ evil demons were easy pickings for the 2 personal guards. The fight with the remaining monsters had been so easy that Xueqi hadn't even needed to use another berserk skill after Heavenly Dragon's power had ended. He only needed to support his personal guards from the side. Whenever his personal guards' HPs fell below a certain point, Xueqi had simply activated the 7 Luminaries' Rings life domain to recover their HP to full. For a time, Xueqi, Anna, and Kite slaughtered the hundreds of evil demons around them, further dumbfounding the spectating crowd. That was several hundred level 70+ evil demons they were talking about. Moreover, the weakest among them was a lord. Even an army of 10,000 elite players would have trouble against such a force, yet Anna and Kite ended these evil demons as if they were farming common monsters. So strong! Black Flame's personal guards are awesome. They should both be fine gold rank. I've seen fine gold personal guards before, so I am certain that fine gold personal guards are definitely not that powerful. I'm willing to bet that the female summoner is dark gold rank. I doubt even super guilds have dark gold personal guards. It would be great if I had a personal guard like that. I'd have such an easier time grinding and raiding bosses. Keep dreaming. Do you know how much secret silver personal guards are selling for? Nobody will even sell them for 2 or 3 epic items. If there's a fine gold or dark gold personal guard on the market, even super guilds will do everything they can to get their hands on them. Once the crowd of players snapped out of their daze, they turned to look at Anna and Kite, who stood beside Xueqi, with passionate gazes. They all felt a vicious jealousy tear at their hearts. The combat power Xueqi had displayed was indeed frightening. Even without a berserk skill, the man could go toe-to-toe with a great lord-ranked evil demon. Even experts like them dreamed of wielding that kind of power. However, compared to Xueqi's strength, Anna and Kite's combat power was monstrous. This was especially true for Anna. Many of the players present were experts, and quite a few of these experts usually commanded their guild's dungeon raids. Hence, they recognized the factors that contributed to Xueqi's victory over the mythic evil demon. The first factor was the Tier 4 magic scroll Xueqi had used to injure the mythic evil demon and significantly lower its combat power. Anna was the second factor. The Tier 3 golden giant Anna had played a vital role in tanking the mythic evil demon. Meanwhile, her summoned rock guardians had formed a magic array that had suppressed the mythic-ranked evil demon further. Without these 2 factors, Xueqi wouldn't have been able to defeat the mythic evil demon. After watching this battle, the spectating crowd realized how important personal guards truly were. Even if a player were weak, they could rise to prominence in God's domain as long as they had sufficiently strong personal guards. When the various adventurer team's members, in particular, saw Anna and Kite, they felt as if doors to an entirely new world had opened before them. Personal guards, huh? Send the battle video to the commander immediately. With this, our Blazing Owl adventurer team will have a chance of becoming a top adventurer team in the future. The players from the various adventurer teams burst into action. Some players, who commanded their own adventurer teams, immediately ordered their members to do everything they could to find high-quality personal guards. Unlike large guilds, adventurer teams generally had very few members. As a result, these teams struggled when organizing dungeon raids. Large-sized adventurer teams, with over 1,000 members, might not face as much difficulty in this regard, but mid-sized adventurer teams like theirs, which only had several hundred members, even had trouble organizing raids for 50-man team dungeons. However, if they employed a capable personal guard, even a mysterious iron personal guard, it could help make up for the team's lack of manpower when raiding team dungeons. If they had a secret silver personal guard, they could even raid 100-man team dungeons. Then, they'd be able to obtain far better weapons and equipment for their adventurer team's members. These players now realized that personal guards played a crucial role in determining a mid-sized adventurer team's success. For a time, the various adventurer teams started a campaign to find powerful personal guards after watching Xueqi's battle. As a result, personal guards' prices skyrocketed. Meanwhile, inside the Evil Gods Branch Temple in Ancient Rock City, Beast Emperor wore a gloomy expression as he stared at the magic water ball before him. How is this possible? As he read the report one of his subordinates had sent, he couldn't bring himself to believe its contents. He had dispatched over a dozen subordinates and hundreds of evil demons to operate his checkpoint, yet Xueqi had killed everyone there. Even one of the only 2 remaining mythic evil demons had fallen to Xueqi's blade. Boss, why don't I lead some men to annihilate Zero Wing? Wind Hunter suggested from beside Beast Emperor. Although Zero Wing has set up a town near the primordial divine ruin, we can surround the town and prevent anyone from entering or leaving. If they summon another one of those divine magic dragons, we'll just pack up and run away. Once the dragon's duration ends, we can simply encircle the town again. All right. Get it done. But as a precaution, you absolutely must not reveal yourself, Beast Emperor commanded with a nod. Boss, rest assured, I'll make sure Zero Wing's town is nothing more than a pile of ruin once its protection period ends, Wind Hunter said, laughing. He then turned and left the evil god's branch temple. Elsewhere, after Xueqi had annihilated the evil demons at the checkpoint, he made his way toward the primordial divine ruin. Players crowded the ruin, and even though a massive battle had taken place right outside of it, these players chatted and laughed merrily. Some players even hawked their wares here. However, far more players wandered around outside of the town, which had recently been established near the ruin, than those within the primordial divine ruin itself. All of these players examined Zero Wing's new town with curiosity and anticipation. As everyone watched, Xueqi rode his demonic flame tiger towards the town that had the protection of level 100 NPC adventurers. Chapter 1728. Silverwing Town. As Xueqi set foot in the town, the patrolling NPCs didn't move to stop him. However, once he reached the town's guild residence, a middle-aged man in dark blue robes appeared before Xueqi. The logo of a silver sword had been embroidered on the chest of this man's robe. This middle-aged man was one of the senior administrators from White River City's Adventurers Association. Although the man was only Tier 2, he had reached level 150. Lord Protector, we have constructed your town according to your wishes. If there are no problems, please write its name on this town order, the NPC senior administrator said after approaching Xueqi. System. Please name your town. If you fail to do so within 5 minutes, a name will be automatically generated. A name, huh? After Xueqi accepted the town order and pondered for a short moment, he entered the name of his new town on the town order. Silverwing. Since there was already a Zero Wing city in Star Moon Kingdom, he couldn't name the town Zero Wing Town. Meanwhile, as this town developed as a neutral town, it would definitely become well known. Hence, to ensure that everyone knew that it belonged to Zero Wing, and to increase the guild's popularity, Xueqi decided to name the town based on Zero Wing's guild emblem, the silver, six-winged emblem. System. Naming successful. Your town is now Silverwing Town. Once Xueqi named his new town, the nearby players watching received a system notification. System. You have discovered Silverwing Town. When the surrounding players tried to inspect the town, a window popped up, stating that the town belonged to Zero Wing and wasn't yet open to the public. Since the town wasn't open to the public, the town's NPC guards would kill any outsider that ventured too close. Sure enough, it really is Zero Wing's town. Zero Wing is set for life. With their town right next to the primordial divine ruin, any guild or player that wants to explore the ruin will likely have to gather in Silverwing Town. Zero Wing's development will definitely soar now. I know, right? Aside from Silverwing Town, there isn't anywhere to rest near the primordial divine ruin. Zero Wing will make a fortune on the repair fees alone. For a time, the various large guilds and adventurer teams were truly jealous of Zero Wing. Many guilds had already shifted the focus of their development to neutral maps, and as a result, neutral towns had become astronomically valuable. This was even more true for a neutral town beside a primordial divine ruin. Silverwing Town's value could likely rival that of 4 or more ordinary neutral towns. Meanwhile, the scouts the various large guilds and adventurer teams had stationed to watch the new town beside the ruin immediately reported the latest development to their superiors. Silverwing Town? Cuttlefish, one of Crimson Emperor's elders, caressed his white beard as he looked at Silverwing Town from a short distance away. Uncle Cuttlefish, many guilds are trying to partner with Zero Wing right now. Should we send someone to contact the guild as well? A level 51, Tier 2 Berserker beside Cuttlefish asked. The Berserker wore dark red armor and carried a double-edged battle axe. No, let's wait for a while, Cuttlefish said, shaking his head. Although Zero Wing has built a town beside the primordial divine ruin, Beast Emperor isn't someone to be taken lightly. Moreover, this is a neutral map. There is simply too much profit involved with Silverwing Town. Even if Beast Emperor doesn't make a move, I doubt that the other superpowers will sit still. Whether or not Zero Wing can keep its town after the protection period is uncertain. Hearing Cuttlefish's thoughts, realization dawned on the Tier 2 Berserker. At the same time, a hint of pity also surfaced in his gaze as he looked at Silverwing Town. God's domain was a cruel place. In God's domain, holding a treasure without the power to protect it was a sin. Although Zero Wing had shown the world its extraordinary strength, this kind of power was short-lived. Powerful tools couldn't be used indefinitely. Like Zero Wing, many such guilds had risen in the virtual gaming world in the past, and they had been incredibly successful, developing rapidly by using various means and resources. Unfortunately, due to their lack of a sturdy foundation, they had become a target for stronger forces, struck down before they could become a superpower. Whether or not Zero Wing protected Silverwing Town could be considered a test for the guild. Meanwhile, after Xueqi entered Silverwing Town's guild residence, he began to set up the guild residence teleportation magic array. Once he finished and made teleportation to Silverwing Town via guild transfer scrolls possible, he instructed Aqua Rose to bring all of the architects he had requested and a large number of elite members to the town. When the group emerged from the guild residence, seeing Silverwing Town for the first time, they could not help but grow excited, especially the elite members. With Silverwing Town, they'd have a much easier time getting into the primordial divine ruin. After all, the town was so close to the ruin. Their guild would have a massive advantage over the other powers when contesting over entry slots. Even elite members like them might get the chance to enter the ruin, not to mention the guild's expert players. If they were lucky, they might even get to visit Primordial City. Guild leader, everyone's here. We can begin constructing the hotels and smithies right away, Aqua Rose excitedly reported as she walked up to Xueqi. Although Zero Wing had earned quite a lot of coins through Zero Wing City, coins were only coins. A lot of coins didn't necessarily equate a lot of resources. Furthermore, Zero Wing's range of influence was much smaller than first-rate guilds and superpowers. This greatly limited the guild's ability to collect and purchase resources. However, Zero Wing now had Silverwing Town. With a treasure trove of resources like the primordial divine ruin right beside the town, Zero Wing would have a much easier time acquiring the resources it needed. Most importantly, players had long since passed the Stoneclaw Mountains level range. As a result, Stone Forest Town's popularity had started to wane. Nowadays, Stone Forest Town's development was entirely reliant on its battle arena and advanced auction house. Its ability to collect resources was growing weaker. The rise of Silverwing Town just so happens to make up for this flaw. Good. Xueqi nodded approvingly. Following which, Xueqi arranged the basic and intermediate architects to start constructing the town's hotels and smithies. As for the advanced architects, he had them stay behind. As the advanced architects wondered what special task Xueqi had in store for them, Xueqi revealed the magic tower design he had obtained from the lost town in the Boneless Land. Seeing the design, the eyes of the advanced architects glowed with excitement and surprise. Even Aqua Rose was dazed when she saw the design. She was very familiar with the magic tower's power. It was thanks to the magic tower that Stone Forest Town had developed to its current state. However, the magic tower design was a consumable, and each design only allowed players to build 5 magic towers. Unfortunately, Zero Wing had expended all 5 of its last design's uses. Although they had done their best to find another magic tower design, their search hadn't borne fruit thus far. Even the various super guilds struggled to find one for themselves, yet Xueqi had just revealed a new magic tower design. Your task this time is to complete the magic tower's foundations. I'll handle the core manufacturing personally, Xueqi said as he glanced at the dozens of advanced architects before him. Guild leader, may I know how many magic towers we'll be building in Silverwing Town? An advanced architect asked curiously. We're building all 5. Xueqi said. The players before Xueqi gasped, and even Aqua Rose stared at her guild leader with wide eyes. These were magic towers they were talking about. Even one magic tower was enough to forge a popular battle arena. They had only constructed 3 magic towers in Stone Forest Town to protect the town from invasion. Spending a full magic tower design on Silverwing Town was simply extravagant. Chapter 1729. Building up Silverwing Town. Guild Leader. Both the battle arenas in Stone Forest Town and Zero Wing City are crowded with players right now. If we split some of these magic towers to our other locations, we'll definitely increase our profit margins from both battle arenas. Silverwing Town is only basic rank right now. It can only accommodate so many players at a time. It wouldn't be wise to build all 5 magic towers here, Aqua Rose advised. Moreover, concentrating all of our resources in a single location won't be good for the guild's development. If we share some with the Branch Guild and the Black Dragon Empire, developing Snowside will proceed far more smoothly. Zero Wing was the #1 guild in Starmoon Kingdom, but that wasn't the case in the Black Dragon Empire. Not only did the Empire have plenty of large guilds, but it also had more than enough first-rate guilds. The competition between guilds in the Empire was intense. Although large-scale guild wars weren't frequent, small skirmishes involving teams of hundreds occurred almost daily. If Zero Wing wished to increase its influence in the Empire, it would have to get involved in even more skirmishes. Meanwhile, this would no doubt increase the guild's expenditure. After fighting in multiple and consecutive large-scale wars, Zero Wing had exhausted most of its savings. Unlike other kingdoms and empires' various large guilds, Zero Wing no longer had a reserve of funds and resources it could rely on to develop steadily. The situation in the Black Dragon Empire was much more stable than in Starmoon Kingdom. Aside from small skirmishes, the guilds in the Empire didn't really encounter a lot of problems in their development. As a result, guilds there developed much quicker than the guilds in Starmoon Kingdom. The Empire's guild players had much higher equipment level and quality than that of Starmoon Kingdom's guild players. Many of the Empire's guild experts had also begun challenging their Tier 2 promotion quests. In fact, the first-rate guilds there had even started raiding level 50 super large-scale team dungeons. There's no need for that right now. Silverwing Town takes precedence over everything. When we have enough resources, try to build as many defense turrets in the town as possible, Xueqi said, shaking his head. While Silverwing Town has already been established, it's still uncertain if Zero Wing can actually defend it. Although there were plenty of resources available in the Black Dragon Empire, the Orc Empire's primordial divine ruin was much more important. It might be a different story if the Orc Empire's primordial divine ruin was an ordinary one, but housing a passage to Primordial City increased its value by several times. Stone Forest Town couldn't compare to Silverwing Town's potential value. Previously, Stone Forest Town had only managed to attract so many players because the Stone Claw Mountains turned into a regional dungeon. After players reached level 50, the Stone Claw Mountains weren't accessible to them. However, a primordial divine ruin that was connected to Primordial City would never fall behind the times. Even superpowers had gone all out to monopolize primordial divine ruins with a pathway to Primordial City. This was because Primordial City offered quite a bit of help to players as they challenged their promotion quests. Although players received less help from Primordial City as they reached higher tiers, as long as the city was even the slightest bit helpful, it was still extremely valuable. The various superpowers had yet to realize the true value of Primordial City. They merely treated it as a source of combat techniques and some other valuable resources. Hence, they still held a wait-and-see attitude in regard to Silverwing Town. Once they discovered Primordial City's true value, however, they would do everything they could to obtain Silverwing Town. Beast Emperor would be the least of Zero Wing's worries. Zero Wing needed to strengthen Silverwing Town to the best of its abilities. Aqua Rose gawked at Xueqi's reply. She felt that Xueqi was simply insane. Not only did he want to build 5 magic towers in Silverwing Town, but he even planned on constructing a large number of defense turrets. Was he trying to turn Silverwing Town into a fortress? If the other guild upper echelons found out, they would definitely curse Xueqi's wasteful behavior. Seeing as Xueqi had no intention of changing his mind, Aqua Rose gave up on persuading him and started designating work for the basic and intermediate architects. As Silverwing Town had just recently been built, aside from some basic constructions and a few wandering NPCs, the town had practically nothing in it. Fortunately, Aqua Rose had brought over 600 basic and intermediate architects with her this time, and since they only had to build basic constructions, Their building speed was extremely fast. The players observing Silverwing Town from afar quickly discovered the emergence of bars, hotels, smithies, restaurants, and shops in the town's empty spaces one after another. When they saw the smithies in the town, their eyes glowed with excitement. Although they could obtain a lot of resources and contribution points from fighting in the Orc Empire, fighting the Empire's monsters put an unprecedented burden on their weapons and equipment. At most, their weapons could last through one day of grinding. Despite the Orc Empire being such a large map, guilds had only captured 4 towns thus far. Moreover, all 4 of the guild towns were in the Empire's outer area. If they wanted a fruitful harvest, they needed to grind in the neutral map's inner area at the very least. A round trip between the Empire's inner and outer areas took over 10 hours even on a mount. During the trip, there was even a risk of encountering a mid-sized or large-sized Orc patrol squad. If a team came across such a patrol squad, it would either get annihilated or suffer severe losses. On the other hand, not only was Silverwing Town located right beside the primordial divine ruin, but it was also close to the Empire's inner area. Even if they couldn't enter the primordial divine ruin, they could travel into the Orc Empire's inner area via Silverwing Town. Xueqi reached the guild hall's first underground floor. Standing inside the magic array carved in the center of the floor, Xueqi took out the Heroes chapter to summon Craig Midlands. Originally, Xueqi had intended to use this Heroes chapter on Zero Wing City. However, to increase Silverwing Town's security, he decided to use it on his newly acquired town instead. He placed the Heroes chapter on the magic array's core and started chanting the activation sequence. System. Discovered specified Heroes chapter. Do you wish to pay 3,000 magic crystal to summon the specified hero? 3,000 crystals. How fraudulent! Xueqi was astonished by the price. Even during his previous life, the most expensive specified hero he summoned only cost 1,000 magic crystals. However, that wasn't the worst part. After all, to the current Zero Wing, 3,000 magic crystals was nothing at all. It was a different story if this was the cost of summoning a hero via a Heroes chapter. After players summoned a hero, they had to pay half the summoning cost every day to maintain the hero's mana body. In other words, after summoning Craig Midlands, he would have to pay 1,500 magic crystals every day to maintain the hero's existence. This price was the equivalent of 3 magic towers' operating cost. In the end, however, Xueqi gritted his teeth and chose to proceed with the summoning. Immediately, 3,000 magic crystals vanished from Xueqi's bag space. The mana inside the guild hall rapidly gathered in the magic array, visibly condensing into white mist. The mist further condensed into liquid mana, which gradually on a human form. Once the human form was complete, the liquid mana released a blinding glow. The Heroes chapter, which hovered above the magic array, transformed into lines of divine runes that merged with the liquid mana. Once the divine runes had fully merged with the liquid mana, the blinding glow dissipated. When Xueqi opened his eyes again, he saw a middle-aged man before him. The middle-aged man was clad in white robes and wore a golden crown. He also wielded a purple-gold, crystalline staff. Taking a closer look, Xueqi noticed white mist made of mana circulating the middle-aged man's body. It was as if the elemental mana within the floor had submitted to this middle-aged man and moved at the man's will. So, this is the Magic King Craig Midlands. Xueqi could feel that even if he had the attributes of a level 66, tier 3 player right now, he was still insignificant before the level 66, tier 3 Magic King. Before Xueqi could inspect Craig Midlands' attribute panel, he received a series of system announcements. Chapter 1730. Magic King's Ability. Inside the Silent Guild Hall, Xueqi could not help but be stunned when he looked at the system announcements he just received. System announcement. The Orc King has obtained the Ironblood Staff and unified the various Orc tribes, activating the regional dungeon Orc capital city. System announcement. The Orc Empire has begun its invasion of its neighboring countries and constructed many teleportation war fortresses. System announcement. The Orc Empire has joined the Dark Alliance. The Orc Empire is now classified as a glory battlefield. Xueqi wasn't the only person shocked by the appearance of these three system announcements. The players residing within the Orc Empire and its neighboring countries were all stunned by these sudden announcements. A regional dungeon, fortresses, and a glory battlefield? Is the system trying to turn the entire Orc Empire into a war zone? Xueqi could not help but frown as he studied the contents of the system announcements. First of all, the Orc capital city. The quantity and quality of resources available inside a regional dungeon located in a neutral map were far better than what regional dungeons located within kingdoms and empires could offer. Not to mention, the Orc capital city was an Azura mode regional dungeon. Setting aside the quality of the weapons and equipment one could obtain from it, just the magic crystals one could get there would make it a target of competition for the various large guilds. Moreover, the Orc capital city's level limit started from level 50 and ended at level 100. A regional dungeon that covered such a wide level range was extremely rare in God's domain. In the future, the large guilds would definitely contest fiercely for the Orc capital city. Aside from the regional dungeon, the teleportation war fortresses would most likely become a fuse that would ignite a war between the major powers as well. The Orc capital city was located in the core area of the Orc Empire. Just traveling from the outer area to the core area would most likely require dozens of hours. However, the teleportation war fortresses could shorten this travel time to just a few seconds. This was possible because of the teleportation arrays set up in these fortresses, which could teleport players to anywhere within their range, just like the 4 towers of elements. These fortresses were scattered around the inner and outer areas of the Orc Empire. As long as players could capture these fortresses from the orcs, they could directly teleport to the core area of the empire, possibly even to somewhere close to the Orc capital city. For this reason, the various large guilds would definitely do everything they could to capture these war fortresses. Aggravating the situation in the Orc Empire even more, the Orc Empire had actually joined the Dark Alliance. With this, not only could players belonging to the Dark Forces move about fearlessly within the Orc Empire, but they would even receive help from the Orc Empire itself. Moreover, now that the entire Orc Empire had been classified as a glory battlefield, Dark players and normal players would be after each other's necks constantly inside the Orc Empire. The reason for this was the glory points that players would earn from killing players of the opposing faction. Meanwhile, these glory points could be used not only to exchange for top-tier equipment but also to obtain battlefield titles. These battlefield titles were much more valuable than any weapon or equipment. In fact, they could even aid players in their promotions. Hence, whenever a glory battlefield appeared, a festival of blood would ensue and continue until one side was completely defeated. Moreover, the losing faction would have to pay a very steep price. Due to these reasons, both factions would usually fight with everything they had. As Xueqi tried to process all these sudden developments, his head ached. The appearance of an Azura mode regional dungeon should have been a good thing. However, the timing of the dungeon's appearance only served to further boost the value of Silverwing Town in the eyes of the various major powers. To make matters worse, even the Dark Forces were intervening in the affairs of the Orc Empire, throwing the Empire into even greater turmoil. If Zero Wing was not careful, it was very likely to fall victim to the struggles of the various major powers. At this moment, Xueqi wasn't the only person troubled by this sudden turn of events. After finding out about the changes made to the Orc Empire, the upper echelons of many large guilds also held emergency meetings to discuss how to deal with this situation. Meanwhile, the dark guilds and dark players hiding within the different kingdoms and empires all grew ecstatic upon receiving the system announcements. Their time had finally come. Although neutral maps were not restricted by any kingdom or empire, they still weren't friendly to the dark forces. Dark players would have a much more inconvenient time leveling up in neutral maps than normal players. However, now that the Orc Empire had joined the Dark Alliance, the entire empire became the territory of dark players. They would have a much easier time moving in the Orc Empire than in other NPC kingdoms and empires. In fact, they could even teleport directly into the Orc Empire. Moreover, they also wouldn't have to keep sneaking around and hiding their identities in the Orc Empire, as the orcs were now their allies. Now, they could not only kill other players in such a favorable environment but also earn glory points in doing so. The Orc Empire was basically heaven to dark players like them right now. Even if some independent dark players were not particularly interested in this matter, the various dark guilds would definitely exploit this situation to the fullest. After all, this was a good chance for dark guilds to develop themselves. Wonderful! This is an excellent opportunity for our guild to establish a town. Ha ha ha. The era of dark players is finally here. For a time, countless dark players swarmed towards the Orc Empire. Ancient Rock City, Evil God's Branch Temple. After finding out about the latest changes of God's domain, Beast Emperor was also beaming with joy. Although the Evil God's Temple had no allies in God's domain, that did not mean he could not take advantage of this sudden development. There was a saying, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." With the various large guilds and dark players at loggerheads, he could cooperate with the dark players to deal with Zero Wing. Doing so would allow him to exact his revenge and destroy Silverwing Town, as well as accelerate the collection of enough contribution points to hasten the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom. Wind, get in touch with the dark guilds in the different kingdoms and empires and tell them that I have a proposition for them, Beast Emperor said, chuckling wickedly. Understood. Wind Hunter nodded. He then ordered his subordinates in the Purple Thorns Empire to arrange for a meeting with the upper echelons of the various dark guilds. Meanwhile, inside the first underground floor of Zero Wing's Guild Hall in Silverwing Town, Xueqi had recollected himself and returned his attention to Craig Midlands. Craig Midlands, Hero, Great Lord, Wizard Saint. Level 66. HP 36, 000, 000/36, 000, 000. Growth potential. 96. As one of the 32 pillars, Craig Midlands had completed the Gods Trial and gained the recognition of ancient gods for his achievements and strength. He possessed not only immense power but also some abilities that other heroes did not. In the past, the hero Xueqi summoned using the specified Heroes chapter he obtained had only one ability. Nonetheless, Craig Midlands had two of such special abilities. The first ability was called Hero's Glory, which facilitated the recruitment of powerful NPC soldiers for the town Craig Midlands was residing in. The second ability was called Magic Strengthening, which temporarily strengthened the weapons and equipment used by the NPC guards, improving their combat power significantly. Looking at these two abilities, Xueqi finally understood why exactly Craig Midlands was so powerful. It was no wonder the Magic King could easily defend a large city and become an existence that even the various superpowers were helpless against. Just the effects of Hero's Glory could already bring immense benefits to the town or city Craig Midlands protected, not to mention the ability to strengthen the NPC guards there. Every guild town and city could recruit only a limited number of NPC soldiers. Hence, raising the quality of NPC soldiers was important. However, doing so was extremely difficult. The Magic King's ability to directly increase the combat power of NPC soldiers was simply absurd. Immediately, Xueqi assigned Craig Midlands as Silverwing Town's magistrate. Now, not only did the NPC have authority similar to Xueqi's, but the Magic King could also recruit and manage NPC soldiers on his own. Xueqi had given Craig the highest possible authority an NPC could have in a guild town. Just as Xueqi was about to have Craig start recruiting NPC soldiers, Aqua Rose suddenly sent him a message. The contents of the message were straightforward. The foundations of the 5 magic towers have already been completed. Only the cores are missing now. They're done already? Sure enough, having advanced architects construct the magic towers is much better. Xueqi felt a little surprised as he read the message. However, after giving the matter some thought, he found it reasonable. Constructing the foundations of the magic tower was a joke that even basic architects could handle with ease, not to mention advanced architects. With dozens of advanced architects working together, it was only natural that they completed the task so quickly. Following which, Xueqi had the Magic King take independent action. As for himself, he left the guild residence and hurried to the magic towers in Silverwing Town. Chapter 1731. Taking Shape. After leaving the guild residence and entering the street outside, Xueqi noticed that Silverwing Town looked much more like a proper town than before. Many new buildings decorated the town now. Even the 5-story tall shop meant for the candlelight trading firm had already been constructed. Now, all that shop needed was a link up with the other shops owned by Candlelight and products to be put up for sale. Once that was done, Candlelight would be able to start doing business officially in Silverwing Town. Due to Silverwing Town having already reached a certain scale, the number of NPCs wandering about its streets had also increased. Now, the patrolling NPC adventurers and Zero Wings members weren't the only ones filling the streets. Moreover, Xueqi even noticed a few mercenary NPCs, wearing tattered armor, walking towards Zero Wings' residence, possibly drawn by the Magic King. Although these NPCs looked destitute, when Xueqi used omniscient eyes to inspect them, he discovered that even the weakest among them was a level 70, Tier 2 NPC. Normally, a recently established town would be fortunate to attract Tier 1 NPCs to become soldiers. Majority of the NPCs applying to garrison the town would only be at the elite standard. As for Tier 2 NPCs, those were basically impossible to find. Yet, now, 3 Tier 2 NPCs were showing interest in becoming soldiers in Silverwing Town. For comparison, Zero Wing City had only a few hundred Tier 2 soldiers guarding it even until now. Although the 3 NPCs Xueqi spotted were not particularly high-leveled, they were more than enough to deal with current players. Besides, NPC soldiers leveled up much more quickly than players. It's no wonder people were saying that a powerful hero could give rise to a city. When Xueqi looked at the 3 Tier 2 NPCs, he could not help but recall the first-rate guilds that owned powerful heroes in the past. Although the funds and resources of those first-rate guilds were far from comparable to what super first-rate guilds and super guilds had, due to them obtaining powerful heroes, the defensive capability of their cities was not one bit lower than that of cities operated by superpowers. Back then, even super guilds had trouble taking action against cities defended by powerful heroes. Only after acquiring Tier 6 players were super guilds able to deal with those cities easily. The reason for this was the strength of a hero not being limited to just themselves. Powerful heroes were also capable of recruiting powerful and talented NPCs to become soldiers of the cities they protected. In the past, the cities protected by such powerful heroes had plenty of its soldiers promoted to Tier 3, with some even reaching Tier 4. Buffed by the city's defensive magic array, these NPCs were capable of exhibiting extremely frightening combat power. Without an absolute advantage, trying to capture such a city was practically impossible. After walking a short while, Xueqi arrived at the edge of Silverwing Town. Currently, a large number of architects could be seen demolishing the old walls of the town and building new ones in their place. Although the town's original walls had some defensive properties, they were useless against attacks at the Tier 2 standard and above. The new walls being built, however, could stop even Tier 3 attacks. Moreover, they possessed much higher durability as well as resistance to siege weapons. They also had an added effect that prevented players from crossing over them from above. For a neutral town, such walls were a must-have defensive measure. However, the cost of constructing these new walls was not cheap. A minimum of 10,000 gold for the entire perimeter of Silverwing Town. If not for Zero Wing having a money-printing machine like Zero Wing City generating large amounts of coins every minute, the guild couldn't have afforded to construct these new walls, in addition to the various hotels, bars, smithies, and restaurants. If a first-rate guild were tasked with managing Silverwing Town, the guild would be fortunate to get the basic facilities up and running. After all, the total cost of constructing Silverwing Town and the basic facilities in it was already close to 120,000 gold. This was a huge sum of money even for current super first-rate guilds, not to mention first-rate guild. However, this was only a small part of the necessary investments into Silverwing Town. Zero Wing still needed to construct a battle arena as well as multiple defensive structures. Those things cost a lot more money to build than hotels and smithies. Meanwhile, standing at the four corners of Silverwing Town were 4 magic towers as well as one more magic tower located close to the town's main entrance. Guild leader, several superpowers have already contacted us. They say they're willing to partner with us as long as we hand over 50% of Silverwing Town's shares as well as allow them to build a guild residence in the town. In return, they'll help us fend off Beast Emperor's attacks in addition to investing 200,000 gold for the fortification of Silverwing Town's defenses. Aqua Rose reported when she saw Xueqi approaching her. 50%? Every superpower is asking for this price? Xueqi asked curiously. He was not particularly surprised by the fact that the various superpowers were offering to invest in Silverwing Town. After all, such situations frequently occurred during his previous life. In the past, many first-rate guilds had, fortunately, come across a town-building order but lacked the strength to safeguard the town they built in a neutral map. In the end, these first-rate guilds would choose to partner with a superpower. The first reason for partnering with a superpower was to protect the town. The second reason was to free up more funds for the development of their own guilds. They would not have to sink everything they had into their neutral towns. Although there are slight differences in their offers, they have all stated that the 50% shares are a must, Aqua Rose replied, nodding. I've already tried negotiating with them on this point, but they all are of the opinion that we won't be able to hold Silverwing Town against Beast Emperor. After factoring in the latest system announcements, they are even more unwilling to budge on this point. We've also just received news that Beast Emperor has managed to add another large batch of evil demons, evil beasts, and independent players to his forces. Right now, these forces are already making their way towards Silverwing Town from ancient Rock City. By the looks of it, Beast Emperor really plans on duking it out with us. What a bunch of old foxes. Xueqi could not help but chuckle upon hearing Aqua Rose's reply. Do they really think that Zero Wing needs their help against Beast Emperor? Ignore those superpowers for now. All we need to do at the moment is have Zero Wing City's elite and expert members come over to Silverwing Town to develop themselves. If Beast Emperor sends any mythic monsters at us, have Cola and the others deal with them. Understood. I'll have them transfer over as soon as possible, Aqua Rose said, nodding. They might not have any way of dealing with the evil beasts and evil demons out in the fields, but none of those monsters should even think of approaching Silverwing Town with its 5 magic towers. Even if Beast Emperor sent a mythic monster at Silverwing Town, their side had Cola and many other Tier 2 players who wielded Tier 3 mana weapons. Including the buff from the magic towers, Cola and the others should have no problem going up against mythic monsters. After Xueqi was done speaking, he entered the closest magic tower and immediately began carving the magic circuits necessary for operating it. The magic circuits were formed using advanced magic arrays. For other players, this was a very difficult and time-consuming task. For Xueqi, who had already become a master magician, however, he could easily complete the necessary advanced magic arrays and connect them into a functioning magic circuit all by himself. Within 5 minutes, Xueqi was done engraving the magic circuit for 1 magic tower. After spending about an hour running around, visiting the 5 magic towers, he was finally done engraving the core magic circuits of the magic towers. Good. Activate all magic towers simultaneously. Xueqi commanded as he stood inside the magic tower located behind the town's main entrance. Immediately, Aqua Rose and other members of the guild's upper echelon, who were stationed inside the other 4 magic towers, activated their respective magic towers. Suddenly, the gigantic crystal atop each magic tower released a dark blue glow. A pillar of light then shot up into the air from each crystal. In the next moment, the towering light pillars split apart and formed light blue barriers that enveloped the entire Silverwing Town. The instant the barriers formed by the 5 magic towers came into contact with each other, the barriers immediately took on a darker shade. By the time the barriers of the 5 magic towers fully merged with each other, a dark blue translucent dome had formed around the entire Silverwing Town. The spectacular scene was visible even to players over at the Primordial Divine Ruin. What's going on? What's happening in Silverwing Town? Everyone present at the Primordial Divine Ruin was dumbfounded as they looked at the dark blue dome covering Silverwing Town, because they could feel the density of the mana around them actually increasing gradually. Chapter 1732. The Effect of 5 Magic Towers. Silverwing Town's sudden transformation immediately attracted the attention of the various major powers at the Primordial Divine Ruin. What's going on with Silverwing Town? It's actually causing such a powerful mana drain. Cuttlefish, who was observing Zero Wing's newly built town from an open-air restaurant in the Primordial Divine Ruin, was filled with confusion. Although Silverwing Town appeared to be located right beside the Primordial Divine Ruin, in reality, over 1,000 yards separated the 2 locations. Despite the distance, the commotion in Silverwing Town affected even the Primordial Divine Ruin. If the rise in mana density in the Primordial Divine Ruin was already so remarkable, what about inside Silverwing Town? After thinking up to this point, Cuttlefish could not help but shudder. Nowadays, the understanding that superpowers had towards the effects of mana density was different from before. After conducting extensive research in libraries and live experiments, they had already discovered just how valuable locations with high mana density were. Areas with high mana concentrations did not only help players maintain a calm mind, allowing them to display greater combat power in return, but also accelerated the recovery of players' stamina and concentration. This situation enabled players to practice their combat techniques for extended periods without having to worry about running out of stamina and concentration. Meanwhile, the execution of combat techniques was different from that of spells and skills. In the case of spells and skills, one could activate them properly so long as the general movements were correct. In the case of combat techniques, however, one's movements needed to be extremely precise. Otherwise, the combat technique would do more harm than good to the user. In short, the difficulty of executing a combat technique was much greater than activating skills and spells. One required arduous practice just to learn to execute a combat technique properly. Hence, if one wished to practice a combat technique efficiently, having an environment that boosted stamina and concentration regeneration was a must. Uncle Cuttlefish, a report just came in from our scouts. It seems Zero Wing has constructed magic towers in Silverwing Town. Moreover, the guild built 5 magic towers in one go. A crimson-armored Tier 2 berserker standing beside Cuttlefish reported. 5 magic towers? Did they see correctly? Cuttlefish revealed a stunned expression when he heard this. For a moment, he even wondered if he had misheard. It's true. They've sent a video recording. There are indeed 5 magic towers in the town, the Tier 2 berserker replied, a bitter smile appearing on his face. He, too, had hoped that there was a mistake in the report. However, after watching the video recording, he couldn't deny this fact even if he wanted to. How is this possible? Cuttlefish's complexion darkened as he watched the video recording the Tier 2 berserker forwarded to him. Wasn't it stated that each magic tower design allowed the construction of only 5 magic towers? At this point in time, the various large guilds were no longer strangers to the magic tower. After the first magic tower appeared in Stone Forest Town, the various large guilds had fervently searched for information about it, especially since the magic tower's existence allowed Stone Forest Town to become the #1 town in Starmoon Kingdom. In addition, as an advanced defensive construction, the magic tower provided the town with considerable defensive power. Even until now, the Crimson Emperor Guild had yet to build a single magic tower. Nevertheless, 5 magic towers had now appeared in Silverwing Town simultaneously. This was simply unbelievable. With these 5 magic towers, Silverwing Town's defensive power had increased significantly. Even if Beast Emperor wanted to destroy Silverwing Town, he would face an uphill struggle to do so. Not to mention, with the drastically heightened mana density, Silverwing Town's popularity among players would definitely increase even further. While inside a neutral map, players' stamina and concentration depleted very quickly. And even if they returned to an NPC town or city to recover, a full recovery would take quite a long time. Meanwhile, the increased mana density would significantly shorten the amount of time needed for players to recover, granting players more time to grind and do quests. One could just imagine how attractive Silverwing Town would be to the players trying to develop in the Orc Empire. With this, Crimson Emperor would also have much greater difficulty in acquiring the shares of Silverwing Town. At this moment, besides Cuttlefish of Crimson Emperor, members of the other superpowers present in the Primordial Divine Ruin were also frowning at the situation. Damn it! Just where did Zero Wing obtain another magic tower design from? The upper echelons of the various superpowers were filled with envy as they looked at the 5 magic towers of Silverwing Town. Right now, even a fool could tell that Silverwing Town had a promising future ahead of it. News about Silverwing Town having 5 magic towers spread like wildfire. For a time, the expert players that had been hesitating over developing themselves in the Orc Empire started migrating to the Empire in large numbers. Meanwhile, inside Silverwing Town. So, this is the effect of having 5 magic towers in a single town? Xueqi was a little surprised as he felt the density of the ambient mana. He also noticed an additional buff appearing in his status window. Spirited State. If you remain in this state for 5 hours, your EXP gain will increase by 30% for 1 hour. If you remain in this state for 10 hours, your EXP gain will increase by 30% for 2 hours. Xueqi's eyes glowed when he read the description of this buff. Moreover, aside from this additional buff, the 5 magic towers also received a boost to their attack range. their defensive radius now covering 6,000 yards. Xueqi had never imagined that constructing 5 magic towers in a single town would bring such bonuses. This was his first time learning about such a matter. However, this was also a reasonable situation. After all, magic towers were incredibly precious. This was true even after 10 years had passed in God's domain. In his previous life, the various superpowers would split the magic towers they had to as many towns as possible. Even in important towns and cities, they would construct 3 magic towers at most. Nobody had been willing to spend an entire magic tower design on a single location. If the various large guilds in his previous life had found out that there was such a benefit from constructing 5 magic towers in a single location, most likely every guild that acquired a magic tower design would spend it entirely on a single town or city. After all, in Stone Forest Town, one needed to stay in a hotel to acquire this spirited state buff. Yet, now, just being inside Silverwing Town granted players the buff. Only, the effects of the buff were inferior to the one gained by staying in Stone Forest Town's hotels, as the 30% increased EXP gain lasted only 2 hours. Even so, this buff was still extremely valuable. Now that such a benefit was available for free, the number of players willing to visit Silverwing Town would definitely increase even further. Most likely, the town would be able to develop into an intermediate town within a short period. Afterward, Xueqi called out Silverwing Town's system interface and allowed access to non-guild members. Quick look! Silverwing Town is now open to the public. Some observers quickly noticed the change in the town's status. Suddenly, countless players swarmed into the town. I'm in a spirited state. What's going on? Is this a joke? We can accumulate 2 hours of increased EXP gain buff just by staying inside Silverwing Town? All hail Zero Wing. The players that entered Silverwing Town could not help but gape in shock when they looked at their status windows. Originally, Silverwing Town was already a very attractive location for players. After all, it not only boasted a higher mana density than even Stone Forest Town, but was also located right beside the primordial divine ruin. Now that players could even gain the spirited state buff just by being in the town, Silverwing Town was basically heaven for players. Within just a few minutes of opening to the public, Silverwing Town's player population had already shot past 100,000. Moreover, this number continued to skyrocket. The player population would most likely zoom past 200,000 before the hour was over. Guild leader, we detected a large number of players and evil beasts heading in our direction through the magic towers. Many among these players are dark players. By the looks of it, they are planning to camp outside the primordial divine ruin and start a war of attrition with us, Aqua Rose said, frowning as she looked at the approaching evil beasts and dark players through the crystal ball of a magic tower. Beast Emperor sure is persistent. Xueqi could not help but chuckle as he looked at the images Aqua Rose sent him. Since that is the case, if they dare come close to the primordial divine ruin, make sure to give them a proper greeting using the magic towers. Chapter 1733. Earth-shattering blow. A large group of evil demons and evil beasts, easily over 50,000 in total, had set up camp in the wilderness outside of the primordial divine ruin. This particular group also included some cloaked players, which all radiated killing intent. Just looking at these players could make one shiver. Some of these players didn't even bother with black cloaks to hide their identities, revealing the black IDs above their heads. It was obvious that these players had slain a frightening number of players. They were definitely not ordinary expert players. All of these players were very well geared. Despite recently reaching level 50, over half of their equipment consisted of level 50 mysterious iron and secret silver equipment. These pieces were definitely among the best available at this stage of the game. Wind, I'll say this first. The Crimson Horn Guild will only help you kill Zero Wings members. We won't be taking the initiative to attack and turn ourselves into cannon fodder. A tall, robust man carrying 2 short swords from his waist indifferently told the phantom of a person beside him. Relax. As long as Zero Wings members leave Silverwing Town, my evil demons and evil beasts will attack them immediately. All you and your men need to do is find an opportunity to kill them. However, don't forget, my goal involves more than making them lose a single level, Wind Hunter reminded the man. He hadn't only chosen to work with Crimson Horn because it was a famous dark guild in the Dark Knight Empire. He had also chosen the guild due to its production of a particular type of poison. This poison was called Soul Devourer and would be applied to a player's weapons. When these coated weapons were used to kill a player, the poison would corrode the player's soul, and depending on how much poison was applied, the victims could lose up to 3 levels before entering a weakened state. During this weakened period, players could not level up. In return for Crimson Horn's assistance, the Evil God's Temple would help the Dark Guild's members grind glory points and accumulate battlefield titles. Leave this to us. As long as we slay Zero Wings members, I guarantee that they will need some time to recover their strength, the indifferent man said confidently. If there weren't so many guilds here, I'd love to fight Zero Wings peak experts. I've heard that their combat standards are quite good, and every item they wear is a treasure. However, by the looks of it, that doesn't seem possible. Saying so, the indifferent man turned to the 6 cloaked players behind him. He wasn't pleased that he couldn't see their appearances. These 6 players would be responsible for dealing with Zero Wings peak experts in the upcoming battle. Although these 6 people were dark players, they did not belong to a dark guild. Rather, they were members of an adventurer team called Dark Hunters. The adventurer team was quite famous in the Dark Knight Empire, and not even Crimson Horn avoided provoking the team. The Dark Hunters adventurer team consisted of monstrous players, and every member was a dark player. Not long ago, the Dark Hunters had dispatched a 20-man team to annihilate the first-rate guild, Tyrant Emperor's main force. Said force had included 1,000 players. Among the Dark Hunters' 20-man team, 8 were Tier 2 players who had absurd combat standards and basic attributes. Even Star Harvester, Tyrant Emperor's guild leader and a level 51, Tier 2 assassin, had died in the battle. Naturally, a Tier 2 assassin possessed much stronger life-saving skills than a Tier 1 assassin. Even 5 Tier 2 experts working together should not be able to stop a Tier 2 assassin's escape. Yet Star Harvest had still been killed. Moreover, a single player from the Dark Hunters had accomplished the deed. The strength the Dark Hunters had displayed had thoroughly shocked the Dark Knight Empire. Star Harvester wasn't some ordinary expert. He was a Refinement Realm expert who ranked 305th on the God's Domain experts list. Not even ordinary Refinement Realm experts stood a chance against him. Yet, the Dark Hunters had killed him. Even before the battle with Tyrant Emperor, the Dark Hunters had created many frightening battle records. Only, these battle records had been carried out in secret, unknown to the various large guilds. The adventure team's accomplishments included the assassination of Crimson Horn's guild leader, Crimson Ghost. This was also why Crimson Ghost wasn't happy to see the 6 Dark Hunters members. In Crimson Ghost's opinion, the players from the Dark Hunters were inhuman, and he hadn't reached this conclusion just because of their monstrous strength. Rather, this opinion was based on the appearance they took on when they activated their true power. When they used their true power, they lost their human form, transforming into true monsters. They also used different combat methods than players like himself. Every one of the 6 players that had been sent from the Dark Hunters was a Tier 2 player. Even without the help of the evil demons and evil beasts, these 6 players were more than enough to deal with Zero Wing's main force members. Since everyone's all here, we'll proceed with the next phase of our plan. First, we'll set up an encirclement around the Primordial Divine Ruin and Silverwing town. But make sure you stay a safe distance away from the town. We estimate that those magic towers have a maximum attack range of around 1,500 yards. Do not enter that range. We won't be responsible for your deaths. Hearing Windhunter's warning, the various dark players nodded their heads. War weapons were no laughing matter. The magic tower's attacks possessed power at the peak of Tier 3. Moreover, the attacks had very large ranges. Unless one used an invulnerability skill or spell, no player at this stage of the game could block an attack from a war weapon and survive. No, there was one player who could block an attack from war weapon like the magic tower, but none of these dark players believed that they had the strength to rival Black Flame. When Windhunter finished speaking, the present players went into action. Windhunter then organized his evil demons and evil beasts to surround the Primordial Divine Ruin and Silverwing town. Shortly after the evil demons and evil beasts began to move, the players in the Primordial Divine Ruin discovered their advance. There are so many evil demons and evil beasts. That should be at least 50,000, right? Is Beast Emperor launching another assault? The crowd at the primordial divine ruin gulped when they saw the approaching evil beast and evil demon army. Although they knew that Beast Emperor only planned to target Zero Wing, they couldn't help their growing fear and anxiety as they watched the monsters draw near. They're finally here. When the various superpowers upper echelons saw the evil demons and evil beasts, their moods considerably brightened. Let's see how Zero Wing maintains its arrogance after this. As long as Beast Emperor was willing to fight against Zero Wing would be under a considerable amount of pressure regardless of whether Beast Emperor won or lost. In that case, they would have an opportunity to acquire the shares of Silverwing Town. However, when the evil beasts and evil demons were less than 1,000 yards away from the primordial divine ruin, one of the magic towers in Silverwing Town, which stood over 3,000 yards away from the monster army, began to gather energy. The mana around the magic tower swiftly collected at the gigantic crystal atop the tower. After a 2-second charge, a pillar of black-white light shot up from the gigantic crystal. Even the players at the primordial divine ruin could clearly see the pillar. What's Zero Wing trying to do? The sudden development confused everyone watching. As these players wondered about the light pillar, it angled downward and shot into the center of the evil beast and evil demon army. Following which, the light pillar expanded and devoured the nearby evil demons and evil beasts. Every monster at special elite rank or below died instantly as the light washed over them. Only chieftains and above had survived, although the monsters at chieftain rank had very little HP remaining. The attack had even heavily injured the Grand Lord-ranked evil demons and evil beasts. Chapter 1734. Silverwing's Might. The light pillar that had blasted into the evil demon and evil beast army had only stopped expanding after it had covered a 100-yard radius. It then gradually disappeared. As the beam attack's horrific energy scattered, the fading light revealed a massive crater in the field the monster army occupied. Only the chieftain rank and above evil demons and evil beasts remained alive, while all else had been burned to ash. A single attack had killed hundreds of evil demons and evil beasts, and every surviving monster was heavily injured, drastically decreasing their combat powers. Not even the Grand Lords that had received the attack had been spared. Seeing this, the players at the distant primordial divine ruin gaped in shock. That had been too powerful. The power of that attack could practically rival that of a Tier 4 spell. What's going on? Didn't they say that Silverwing Town's magic tower should only have an attack range of roughly 1,500 yards? The expressions of Crimson Horn's members darkened as they stared at the crater only a short distance away. Had the beam attacks been shifted slightly, it would have killed more than just evil demons and evil beasts. The death count would have included players like them, as well. Crimson Horn's members weren't the only ones horrified by this sudden attack. The various superpowers members fell into heated discussions, finding Silverwing Town's attack inconceivable. How does that magic tower have such a long attack range? Cuttlefish wore an ugly look as he stared at the fading light pillar. He had thought that Beast Emperor would force Zero Wing into a corner, preventing the guild's members from setting foot in the primordial divine ruin. However, with such an increased attack range on the town's magic towers, even reaching the ruin itself, Beast Emperor was powerless to stop Zero Wing's members from competing for entry slots. After all, the magic tower's attacks were extraordinarily powerful. If Beast Emperor sent his minions to block Zero Wing's path, the guild would retaliate without mercy. If the magic towers struck too many times, even mythic-ranked monsters would fall, much less the lower-ranked monsters. Before anyone could recover from their shock, another of Silverwing Town's mana towers began to gather mana. 2 seconds later, another black-white light pillar ascended into the sky. In the blink of an eye, another energy beam struck the evil demon and evil beast army, opening another clearing amidst the monsters. Damn it! How is this happening? Windhunter's heart bled as he watched his evil demons and evil beasts fall by the hundreds. He had gone to great lengths to nurture these evil demons and evil beasts. He could accept their deaths if their deaths had meaning, but right now, they were nothing more than living targets for Zero Wing. As Windhunter prepared to issue a new command, another beam attack slammed into his monster army. Boom! This time, the attack had taken the lives of more than just a large number of evil demons and beasts. Some of Crimson Horn's members hidden among the monster ranks had died instantly. "Retreat! Everyone retreat!" Crimson Ghost shouted through the team chat with an ashen complexion. Dark guilds had far fewer members than ordinary guilds. A very powerful dark guild generally only had around 30,000 members. Crimson Horn had barely over that count. For this operation, Crimson Horn had dispatched 2,000 expert members, nearly every expert in the guild. And that last beam attack had killed over 100 Crimson Horn experts. At this moment, Crimson Ghost developed a deep hatred for Wind Hunter. Because of Wind Hunter's misinformation, Crimson Horn had lost over 100 experts for no good reason. As dark players, the death penalty they suffered was much more severe than ordinary players. Even though their alignment with the dark forces would lighten their death penalty slightly, it was still harsher than what ordinary players faced. Now that over 100 Crimson Horn experts had been killed, the guild had lost over 5% of its peak combatants. If they suffered another blow like that, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just as Crimson Horn's members began to retreat, Zero Wing's members flooded out of Silverwing town. Although only a little over 2,000 guild members had emerged, every one of them rode a majestic thunder wolf. The spectacular scene of 2,000+ thunder wolves stunned both the spectators and Wind Hunter's group. "Bastards!" Wind Hunter bellowed in rage as he watched Zero Wing's army charge towards him. After bombarding his army with the magic towers, Zero Wing actually took it a step further and sent its members to pursue his remaining forces. It was obvious that Zero Wing wanted to show everyone that the evil god's temple was not a foe worth worrying about. To make matters worse, Zero Wing had only dispatched a little over 2,000 members for the pursuit. If news of this spread, the evil god's temple's prestige would be tarnished. The temple would become a laughingstock in the Orc Empire. Immediately, Wind Hunter had his evil demons and evil beasts charge at Zero Wing's army, even going as far as to mobilize 2 mythic evil beasts. Although the magic tower's attacks were powerful, they couldn't easily take down mythic-ranked monsters. In fact, the 2 mythic evil beasts would have no problems escaping the battlefield even after annihilating Zero Wing's force. Moreover, with how far the magic towers could reach, Zero Wing wouldn't dare to fire on the evil demons and evil beasts as they clashed with the guild's members. Suddenly, one level 60+ evil demon and evil beast charged towards the incoming players, but before they could reach their targets, 2 more beam attacks plowed into the monster's front line. The beams wiped out any elites and special elites they struck while leaving the rest heavily injured. After the 2 beam attacks descended, Zero Wing's members, who wielded mana weapons, finally made contact with the evil demons and evil beasts. The moment they did, they started a slaughter. The Zero Wing experts wielding Tier 2 mana weapons could fight a Lord-ranked evil demon or evil beast, even when the monsters were at their peak, toe-to-toe. Hence, the weakened chieftains and lords posed no threat to Zero Wing's melee players. In addition, the ranged DPS provided cover fire, and the healers maintained everyone's HPs from the rear. Overall, the first wave of evil demons and evil beasts that met Zero Wing's army in combat was no match for Zero Wing's army. Finally, the 2 mythic-ranked evil earth dragons arrived before Zero Wing's forces, their massive frames looming like 2 mountains. The evil earth dragons then released deafening roars as they swiped their massive claws at the enemy players. However, before their claws could reach the melee players before them, 2 figures appeared before each monster. One of these figures was Kola, while the other was Turtledove, and the 2 MTs had already activated the power of darkness, increasing their attributes significantly. Silver divine runes illuminated the Tier 3 mana weapons in their hands, and once the 2 Guardian Knights reached the evil earth dragons, they swung these weapons at the incoming claws. Tier 2 skill, Divine Adjudication. A golden glow bloomed before the 2 Guardian Knights as the 2 evil earth dragons' gigantic claws abruptly halted mid-swing. No matter how much force they used, they couldn't even move their claws an inch farther. After a brief moment, 2 explosions shook the area. The 2 level 75 evil earth dragons stumbled 5 steps back, and the ground beneath them trembled as they moved. Before the mythic evil beasts could recover their stances, Kola and Turtledove advanced once again and arrived before their targets. They then swung their weapons, and the silver divine runes covering the Tier 3 mana weapons brightened as the blades fell on their targets. Tier 2 skill, Dragon Annihilator. Tier 2 skill, Current Blade. Kola and Turtledove used their respective legacy skills without hesitation. The moment their attacks connected with the evil earth dragons, the two mythic monsters let out agonizing cries as they were pushed back by 20 yards, a damage of over -800,000 appearing above each of their heads. Although the evil earth dragons' HP bars had only decreased by a very small fraction, barely noticeable to ordinary players, expert players with acute perception noticed the change. The players watching from the primordial divine ruin were frozen with shock, staring at Kola and Turtledove with dumbfounded expressions. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.